And I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Jesse Rubin, Melissa Wong, Bonita. Yep. Thank you.
Good evening. I am a concerned resident of San Leandro. There are a lot of us that frankly do not tune in to council meetings because, let's be honest, it's hard to make the time. But my neighbors want the city to thrive as much as I do. And everyone I talk to is concerned about how much time this council wastes on political grandstanding and power plays. It's nice to hear all of you having some really serious conversation here tonight to make sure you understand the nuances of what you're voting on. But that is definitely not the case at every council meeting. We see those of you that are sitting up here and are not here for the right reasons, that are not serious about using public money as wisely as possible, that are not serious about making San Leandro the very best it can be. And we are watching. I, for one, am motivated to help ensure more of us are watching every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Wong, Bonita Kit, and Jason Lee or G? Melissa? Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Melissa Wong, District 4, and Washington Homeowners Association board member, as well as a member of the Washington Manor Resilient Hub. I wanted to do a general comment about being heard. There's been times when I've sent emails and I don't get any response, or I have public comments and I don't get a response. And maybe that's something that I need to know how it works here. But in listening to various other people, including the two preceding me, I do share in their frustration. First of all, I love the staff. If there's any way to make their jobs easier, please help them. I promise I would give a shout out to the library because I think they're the best department that I have experienced, and they really step up when there's times. And anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about the budget later on, but thank you for your time. Oh, I do have one more comment. Maybe this is the forum. Dot voting, not a fan. And I see some frustration when the planning session happened a couple months ago. I didn't think that people enjoyed it. So perhaps there's other ways to figure out what the priorities are and not use any more dots. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Bonita Kit, Jason G, and Celine Wang.
My name is Bonita Kit. I'm here representing myself and my husband, who is a 30-year career Marine veteran, 100% disabled, and a father who I am a daughter of a 30-year Army vet. I want to know what it is that needs to be done with the neighborhood in which I reside at 15205 Hesperian Boulevard, Hesperian Gardens. The wall that is there is low. People are being hurt, and the city doesn't come out because the excuse is with private property. But the last time I checked, and maybe I'm wrong, as a citizen and a person that resides in the city of San Leandro, and I pay taxes in the city of San Leandro, that you don't come out when we need you. Just recently, we had one of our neighbors go out in the driveway and was literally pelted with rocks. We've had debris thrown in our driveway area, and people are attacked, mothers. There are senior citizens that live in our area. I don't need to have another Vietnam War happen in my neighborhood. But if the city doesn't do anything, somebody has to do something. What are we paying taxes for? Why are you holding these meetings? It does not make any sense. And if the wall is with property of the railroad, then what are you doing about it? We need to have that wall, retaining wall, levied higher so that the trash, the debris, the feces, and the other garbage does not come over on our property so that we're running around there darn near dodging bullets, hurting ourselves because you won't help us out. I don't understand.
Thank you. Jason G, Celine Wang, Raymond Jin.
Hello, my name is Jason Lee. I too am a resident at Hesperian Gardens, part of District 2. So my concerns or my comments are directed to Councilmember Brian Azevedo. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. My concern is regarding the homeless encampments and its impact on the safety of our community, especially my safety. At this moment right now, there are multiple encampments on the other side of the wall. If you drive by, you will see them. While that may not be sound like, it does not sound intimidating but it becomes an issue, a very dangerous one, when they all operate as a collective, a single group with a mob mentality. So this is speaking from experience. A few weeks ago, I believe Caltrans came by and cleared things up. So there were a group of them that were evicted, and they were not the friendliest. I was outside, broad daylight, just walking my dog. I was next to KFC, and they were checking rocks. I don't know if they were checking it at cars, but they were checking it on the road. So I had to go through them. If I had been assaulted, what would I have done? I don't know. So my question is, what can we do since this has been an ongoing issue? Do I need to defend myself? Because the last thing I want is to see, my dog hurt, me getting hurt, my neighbors getting hurt. So to Benita's point, what can we do about the wall? Thank you.
Thank you. Celine Wang, Raymond Jin, and Sky Wu.
Good evening, Mayor Juan Gonzalez III, City Council member, and city staff. My name is Celine Huang, and my family has lived in the Hesperian Gardens Homeowner Association for almost 30 years. I'm speaking on behalf of my senior grandparents and parents who face a language barrier to address serious issue, the homeless encampments along the Union Pacific Railroad and BART tracks, which have been present since December 2020. Despite reporting these issues repeatedly to the City of San Leandro, the police department, and platforms like Seacliff Fix and Union Pacific Railroad's Notify UP, there has been no coordinated response to remove the encampments or address the safety concerns permanently. This situation has become a major risk for both residents and unhoused individuals. We have experienced multiple fires, property damage, public indecency in front of minors, violent incidents, and even an attempt stabbing of my mother by an unhoused man in 2021. Most recently, California Highway Patrol had to search the area for a murder suspect. Just last week, an unhoused person threw a big sharp rock, almost hit my dad who was walking by. Temporary cleanups have not solved the problem. We urgently need a comprehensive plan that prioritizes public safety, ensures unhoused individuals receive the care and housing they need. We are asking the City of San Leandro to coordinate with Union Pacific Railroad, county, and state agencies to address these crises. Please review the attached document we have sent via email. We have respectfully request a response and an update on next steps. Until this day, we also have not received much responses from the City of San Leandro. And thank you for your attention to this critical issue. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you. Raymond Jin, and then Sky Wu.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Raymond Jin, and I'm also a resident of Hesperian Gardens. I lived in San Leandro for about 30 years, and I've lived in this community for about 5 years. And over the 5 years, I've never been more concerned about my safety and the safety of my neighbors. The problem is that there are groups of homeless people that loiter right outside of the brick wall. These people are aggressive, they're on drugs, they're disruptive, and they have no regard for their safety or the safety of the people around them. For example, when it gets dark, and this was mentioned a few times, they like to burn stuff, I presume for warmth. I can smell what they're burning. My bedroom is right next to the wall. I can smell everything that they're burning. At night, I can't open my bedroom window because of the smell. It only takes one ember to land on our roof and cause something devastating. Think about the fires that has happened in California over the last couple of years. It only takes one little accident for something devastating to happen. On 3 separate occasions over the last 5 years I've lived here, I've heard 3 large explosions, big enough to shake up our whole house. One of the explosions caused a fire, and the fire burned. It burned and burned and burned there for 20, 30 minutes before fire department even made it there and put it out. This is becoming a really great concern. And not only that, there are disturbance. I work from home. My 2 other roommates also work from home. 24 hours a day, you can hear people screaming. You can hear people yelling at each other. They're screaming at the top of their lungs. They're playing disruptive music. People are getting in arguments. You can hear aggressive dogs barking at people walking by, barking at each other. Sometimes you can hear the dogs fighting each other. It's getting really out of hand. I'm scared to walk outside myself. I'm scared to walk my dog. My mom doesn't visit me. My sister doesn't visit me because they're scared of our community. This is something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Your time is up. Sky Wu.
Mayor Gonzalez, city members, council members, city manager Cameron, and staff. Tonight, I want to speak about 2 guiding principles that should shape San Leandro's path for budgeting and financial reasons going forward. Opportunity and accessibility. Opportunity. Years ago, San Leandro created a citizen-led budget task force. That effort offered residents a seat at the table, not just to observe, but to help shape our fiscal decisions. Several council members, Mayor Gonzalez being the most visible, and citizens present tonight were directly influenced by that experience. I urge the council to bring back the budget task force in a new format, not only to strengthen transparency, but to provide future community leaders with the opportunity to learn, participate, and lead. On accessibility, I've had the privilege to tour both the water pollution control facility and the navigation center operated by Building Futures. In each case, it became immediately clear how vital these services are and how wisely those dollars are being spent. These visits transform budget items lines into real visible public value. We need more of this, not just site visits, but deep dives into the financials and operations of our city. Accessibility means opening the books, opening department processes, and helping the public understand what's at stake. Because the top of the San Leandro's organization chart sits not the city manager, not the mayor, but the residents. As residents, we have been absent for too long. Let's change that and allow us to have a say in what our institutions fund and rely on. So opportunity, accessibility, and residents, let's help the city out.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
Okay, so we will close public comment on this item. So just a little bit for the benefit of the public as a general principle, we don't dialogue around public comment items because they're not on the agenda. By the Brown Act, we're not supposed to engage in dialogue on non-agendized items. To the extent that there are clarifying questions that might clear up some confusion, we sometimes address those questions to just share some factual information. But thank you all for your extensive comments today. At this point in time, we are going to move to item number 8 on our agenda. Item number 8 is our public hearing. We have been hearing from members of the public at several meetings. This will be our 4th such meeting. I am going to look to council members and look for like a head nod. We have seen from our city clerk multiple times now a presentation. I'm wondering if we can just waive the presentation since we have seen it before several times. Seeing acquiescence to that, I would move forward with public comment on this item. Right now, the time is 8:22, and I'm opening the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one hand up online and one public comment in person.
Let's take the in-person comment, please.
Melissa Wong. She may have left. Oh, can't see that side of the room.
Okay, Melissa Wong here, District 4 again. I'm actually talking on behalf of Bob Glaze, who's not here, the president of the board of, board president of the Washington Homeowners Association. So this is in regards to the district voting. He's in support of it within the district, and he also wanted to say, and I also agree that if it's at large for those positions, that would be for the whole city. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. IT, if we can go online now. Mitch Heidema, you may unmute yourself.
Hello again, everybody. I am only speaking up again on this topic because I'm wondering, do we really need to spend the additional money? I assume it will cost additional money to put this on the ballot and have the citizens, have people voting on whether or not we do this. As I see it, we don't have a lot of choice about whether we do this or not. And I just request that, unless I'm wrong about that if we could please move forward with this in the least expensive way possible, I would very much appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
It is 8:24 and I'm closing the public hearing. At this point in time, if there's no need for further discussion, we'll move on to our kind of the main course. Item number 9, a presentation regarding our biannual budget. If I'm not mistaken, we're going to start with Finance Director Nicole Gonzalez walking us through this. But before doing that, as I promised, if you want to take a little bio break, is that what I'm sensing? Okay, why don't we take a quick bio break? And by quick, I mean we're going to set like a 4-minute timer. So we're taking a break. We're in recess. As promised before, we will take public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one public comment in person and we have no hands up online.
Please proceed in person.
Melissa Wong. No, we're taking public comment in person first.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Okay. I'm Melissa Wong, District 4. My council member is not here yet, but anyway, he knows what I'm going to say probably. Okay, I have lived through 2 biannual budget formulation cycles, and we're going through a 3rd one. Okay, I was one of 28 members of the budget task force from 4 years ago. We met 6 months, twice each month. The meetings were at least 2 hours long. Then we had a watered down version 2 years ago where there were only 3 public forums where we discussed budget. And then we have this one, which I found to be a really bad version of 2 years ago. I saw a lack of organization and preparation. I don't know, I don't blame anybody. I think it's a combination of many things. But by your own schedule, I remember that the 3rd meeting was to take place in end of April, and apparently we're not even having the 3rd meeting. The only thing I know is that by the end of the month, because we have less than 30 days, the council and the mayor will vote with whatever's on the table. And that's pretty scary that we are relying on our calendar to tell us when we have to do something. Okay. I looked at the slides and I see a column that says detail and potential impact of all these proposals. I counted 120 reduce or eliminate out of 150. That's 80%. But what I didn't see was actually the impact. There were 14 that actually in both said community impact. So I suppose somebody heard what I said. But thanks to the library, Parks and Rec, Human Services, and Public Works, they try to.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, we have one public comment online.
Please proceed.
Mitch Heidema, you may unmute yourself.
Hey, everybody. You've been warning us that the budget is in deficit, starting with the State of the City address and then the public engagement meetings that she was just talking about. We've had a structural deficit. Going forward, we look like we will continue to have a structural deficit. Every year, we get farther and farther behind on infrastructure and maintenance, and our pension situation sounds like it's a nightmare. I'm concerned that I don't feel like I have good clarity on exactly what is being cut back and what is not. My fear is that based on what I do see and based just on the history of not just our city, but cities in general, is that the biggest cutbacks will be on the areas of people who need the most, people who who aren't as flashy, whether that's young people and library services or services for the elderly. And my fear is that it won't be cut evenly across the board, including police. And I know that you get a lot of requests for, hire more police, and that has a lot of public support, but we have to feel the pain, I think, everywhere. Also, welcome to Dustin. Hopefully he can, in fact, bring in new revenue to the city and help with this issue. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
Okay, so we'll close public comment on the budget item. We've got about 2 hours of budgeted time just for the presentations. An hour and a half minimum. Talking about 120 20 slides. So I'd like to get a motion right now to try to understand what council's willingness is with respect to how long we're going to stay here, so that I can try to manage the meeting accordingly.
Make a motion to extend to 11 o'clock.
Okay, I've got a motion to extend to 11 o'clock. Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second from Councilmember Viveros. Motion from Councilmember Aguilar, second from Councilmember Viveros Walton. Please vote. Oh, Councilmember Azevedo, did you want to comment on that? I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Just want to make a comment. If we can, let's try to get it done by 10 o'clock, but if we can't, by 11. Okay.
I really appreciate that comment. I've just looked at the slide deck and been thinking about where we could cut and, so I appreciate your concern. Please vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes unanimous 7-0.
Okay, so at this point in time, I think I do want to recognize that this matter did come to the Finance Committee for multiple meetings. And, we had some very difficult discussions. Councilmember Aguilar, Councilmember Viveros Walton, and I, with city staff. Some kind of, I won't call it harsh, but it was just some firm back and forth. And what you see in front of you, in some sense, is a compromise of what they have come back to us with. So with that background, with that foundation, I'd like to invite Finance Director Gonzalez to come forward and kick us off. And we're going to try to be as effective as we can with our time, but we recognize that we're allocating about 2.5 hours to this.
Can you hear me okay? There we go. Good evening, mayors, members of the City Council. Nicole Gonzalez, Director of Finance here with the City of San Leandro. This evening we have a number of presentations, which is the fiscal years 26-27 proposed biennial budget. We will provide an overview of the city's operating budget, and we'll then have an opportunity to receive presentations from each department. Again, just quick overview of the agenda. I won't spend much time on this. What I explained in the previous slide is kind of how we will proceed through the presentations this evening. Wanting to provide some background to the council as well as to the committee. The fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget process kicked off in about November, December of 2024. In February and March of 2025, the city held 2 community engagement forums, once on a Thursday evening, a second on a Saturday morning, which was attended by a number of members of the City of San Leandro's community. We provided an overview of the city's general fund forecast, as well as discussed a number of the city council priorities, at which time the attendees from the community were able to vote on the priorities that are set by council and what some of the priorities were that that the community wanted to see continue forward. That included homelessness and housing, public safety, and infrastructure. Moving from the community forums, we moved into the presentation of the proposed biennial budget to the Finance Committee. The first meeting was held on April 23rd. At that time, we did present a proposed fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget. The committee provided some very clear, direct feedback to staff on what was expected as we continue to move through the budget process. And what that feedback really was that the fiscal year 26 and 27 budget, the expenses less transfers, would be equal to the projected revenue that staff was projecting at that time. And that beginning in fiscal year 2028, all expenses would equal the projected revenue. Additionally, there were a number of items that were presented to the committee for consideration, specifically related to ARPA-funded projects, that to continue on moving forward, it would need a general fund request to continue that program. And so as part of that, there was a recommendation to add additional funding for encampment cleanup and alternative response unit, and then also to support the recently approved rent registry. So over the 2 weeks before staff returned to the committee on May 12th, there was significant work that was done by staff to identify a number of reductions in different parts of the community and within each department. And so staff did return on May 12th to the Finance Committee. We did present another proposed fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget. We were able to meet the directive of the Finance Committee, that goal, to ensure that our expenses less transfers met the projected revenue. Unfortunately, the city did not, or the staff did not meet the goal for fiscal year 2027. But through the grace of the Finance Committee, recognizing that the city and staff really wanted to be very thoughtful and strategic with its approach to looking to make significant reductions, gave staff the grace to have 12 months to continue to look at the budget and look for ways in which reductions can occur and how those reductions would impact the community. And we did, at that meeting on May 12th, the Finance Committee did recommend the proposed fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget to be presented this evening to the full council. High level, wanting to provide an overview of the city's operating budget. As you can see here, the city's general fund is its largest fund. It is very similar and consistent with other neighboring jurisdictions. The total of all of the city's citywide operating is, for fiscal year 2026, we have revenue projections of just under 225 million, expenditures totaling 239,000. And then in fiscal year 2027, we have projected revenue very similar, almost 225 million, and expenditures at 235.3 million. And so we can see here we have the general fund, special revenue. Those are oftentimes special revenue that we receive through pass-through or through special agencies. We have internal service funds, which are often referred to as mini businesses within a city organization that provide a service. So this is a cost to provide those services. It's very similar that you will see like an internal service fund would be IT, fleet management, things that provide a service to other city departments. And then there's the enterprise funds and other funds which make up debt as well as the successor agency. I want to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about fund balance. We've heard a lot about structural deficit and why it's a concern. And so wanting to spend a little bit of time talking about what fund balance is as we move into the long-term financial forecast. So a fund balance represents the difference between the city's total assets and the current liabilities. It's essential to show the net. It essentially shows the available resources that fund has at any given time. There are a number of categories or buckets within a fund balance. Non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and then unassigned. We have a target fund balance that the city is always focusing on. A target fund balance is a percentage referred to a desired level of reserves a government or organization aims to maintain in its general fund. You can think of it almost as like your savings account that you have and wanting to make sure that you sustain a certain level of funding in your savings account. The Government Finance Officers Association, you will hear us refer to it as GFOA, recommends that general purpose governments maintain unrestricted fund balance in their fund balance of at least 2 months or approximately 20% of your regular operating costs. So that also does exclude your transfers to other funds. So continuing on, why is a 20% target fund balance important? It does give us, as an organization, the ability to pivot for unexpected expenses without resulting in direct significant service reductions or borrowing. It improves the ability to weather economic downturns or unexpected economic downturns, the ability to remain operational during natural disasters. It may also impact or improve the city's credit rating, which can lead to lower borrowing costs. And then, of course, it continues to enhance the financial stability and resilience of an organization. So what is the City of San Leandro's policy? The City of San Leandro's policy is much more robust. It has a designation of $5 million set aside for major emergencies, and then that 20% of total expenditures for economic uncertainties. This policy sets, this set policy does meet, but like I said, does exceed the industry best practices. So again, wanting to provide some context and information about what is a structural deficit and why it's important for agencies to continue to monitor those on a regular basis. So structural deficit is a persistent imbalance where government's spending consistency outpaces its revenues. What causes a structural deficit can vary from agency to agency and at any given time can change. It has to do with insufficient revenue or fluctuating revenues. There are some specific revenues within the city as well as within the industry itself that are just volatile and difficult to project at any given time. Unpredictable rate changes to the city's pensions, growing infrastructure needs that we see often here in the city of San Leandro, economic instability and uncertainties locally, regionally, and nationally, and then excessive spending. And so why is it a bad thing to continue to hold or to pass a budget with a structural deficit? Persistent structural deficits are unsustainable. It's not something that an organization can continue to do on a regular basis. Eventually, all funds, available funds are expended, which can put the city in a position for filing for bankruptcy. Again, wanting to provide a little bit of history on what the city's structural deficit has looked like over the last 6 years, beginning in fiscal year 2020 to 2021. Each adopted budget did have a projected use of fund balance. It varied from fiscal year to fiscal year. You can see in 2020 to 2021, there was a adopted use of fund balance of $2.3 million. The highest being $8.5 million, which occurred in fiscal year 2022-2023. So wanting to provide a little context around what's driving factors are impacting this proposed biennial budget, the fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget. We led with the focus of fiscal stability. Some of the contributing factors that are impacting the city's ability to continue to strive for that is, one, we are looking to ensure that we are aligning our budget to our actual needs as well as actual costs that we are seeing within the market. The city continues to see increases in employee costs. We did take an opportunity to look at reductions in discretionary budgets to help preserve service levels. That was the first attempt when we looked at reducing the budget. There continues to be costs and rising costs associated with pension and OPEB, which is retiree medical, rising capital and internal service fund needs, and then, of course, the unknowns of the economic uncertainties that the city, as well as, again, the region, as well as nationally, we are experiencing. So I have a couple of different slides here that we'll go through, which is the general fund 10-year forecast. This was the first 10-year forecast that was presented to the Finance Committee on April 23rd. On line 15, you can see that we had a projected fund balance or use of fund balance of $9.8 million in 2026 and $10.2 million in fiscal year 2027. At that Finance Committee, the city did receive clear direction from the Finance Committee that this was unsustainable and asked staff to go back and make further reductions. Again, fiscal year 26 should be aligned with the revenues that were projected, less the transfers, as same with fiscal year 2027. So on May 12th, the staff returned to the Finance Committee with a number of reductions, proposed reductions, which you can see in column D for fiscal year 2026, line 16. The city did meet the goal of reducing to a point where the expenditures less the transfers were equal to or less than the projected revenue. In fiscal year 2027, we did not meet that goal. We were short, but again, through the guidance and flexibility, we received grace from the Finance Committee to continue to do hard work and look for ways in which we can continue to make reductions, but in a very thoughtful and strategic way so that we could fully understand the impacts that it would have on the community as well as staff here. So the updated general fund forecast that is being presented to you this evening is slightly different. We made some technical adjustments in fiscal year 2026, which brought the projected use of fund balance to 6.1 million. However, we were able to make additional technical reductions in fiscal year 2027 and brought that projected use of fund balance from 6.7 to 6.4 million. I do want to point out a number of specific things as it relates to the fund balance that we talked about in the slides before. You will see on line 21, it is the ending balance as a percent of the expenditure. As a reminder, the city's fund balance policy was 5 million for major emergencies and 20% of total expenditures. On this presentation, you will see that the city is meeting that goal. We're meeting that goal until fiscal year 2029. However, when we move into the next few slides, you will see is this is taking account of the total percent of the expenditures. And so it's not taking into consideration some of the other obligations that we have in those different buckets of money that I discussed in your fund balance. So the restricted, the committed, we have obligations that we have to pay. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this representation does meet the definition and guidance of the GFOA. But as I said, the city has a much more robust policy as it refers to the fund balance. So wanting to spend just a few minutes, this is high-level general fund by category. Again, we'll be focusing mostly on columns C and D, which are highlighted in the red box. Those are the two budget years that we are discussing this evening. The total revenue projection for 2026 is 49.9, almost $150 million in 2026. Total expenditures, 156.1 million for a projected net change in fund balance of 6.1 million with a ending fund balance of 48.6. In fiscal year 2027, 154.5 million in projected revenue and expenditures at 160.8 for a projected use of 6.4 in fund balance. I do want to highlight there are some significant changes. You will see a change between column B and column C as it relates to salaries and benefits. The proposal before you this evening does have a number of position elimination proposals on vacant positions, which each department will discuss. This does include all known salary adjustments that are outlined in any of the approved MOUs, as well as any cost increases associated with CalPERS and medical. You will see between fiscal year 26 and 27, services and supplies drastically drops. Again, that is through the work of the individual departments to reduce their budgets in a way to allow for longer-term fiscal sustainability. You will also see an increase in internal service funds between the two fiscal years of almost $5 million. That specifically is related to a number of contributing factors, one of which is the risk fund that the city has as an internal service fund, so it's its general liability. We're seeing significant increases in that area. It's very similar to what we're seeing throughout the region as well as the industry itself. It also includes the increase for the city's ERP, the new financial system, which is currently being implemented, as well as a number of fleet needs as well. So switching back really quickly to talk about that fund balance, I just want to remind everyone on row 3, which is the ending fund balance. That is 48.6 in fiscal year 26 and 42.3 in fiscal year 2027. When you take a ending balance as a percent of the expenditure, again, following GFOA's guidelines, the city has a 32.6% of expenditures as its ending balance. However, when you take into consideration all of its obligations, which you will see here under non-spendable, restricted, committed, and assigned, What is left is the unassigned, which you will see on line 13, 36.5 or 35.6 in fiscal year 26 and 29.2 in fiscal year 2027. When you take into consideration the compensated absences of 708,000, 5 million for that major emergencies to ensure that we're meeting that policy set by council, the available funding for economic uncertainties is 29.8 million in fiscal year 2026. And that is a percent of 20% of your total expenditures. So in fiscal year 26, we are meeting both goals. The 5 million set aside for major emergencies and 20% for economic uncertainties. However, moving into fiscal year 27, we are not meeting that goal. We are meeting part of the goal. We are meeting the $5 million emergencies, which is a designation. But what is available for economic uncertainties is 23.5 million. And that only represents about 15% of our budgeted expenditures. So moving forward, you will see our fund balance represented in this way to be very clear to the council that we are meeting or not meeting the city's set fund balance goal, which again is 5 million for major emergencies and 20% for economic uncertainties. High level, each department will go through all of their summary of their net changes in general fund. So again, the net changes, there are some departments that have made significant reductions, some of which impact service levels. There are also some increases which impact service levels. And so the detail of that will be handled by each department. But as a total net change of 6.5 million in fiscal year 2026 and 1.8 in fiscal year 2027. Wanting to spend a few minutes talking about general fund transfers. There are a number of funds within the city's capital as well as operating budget that receive a transfer from the general fund for a number of different reasons. We have in fiscal year 2026, which is column D, we have estimated $7 million in transfers. A number of those, about 4.9, are related specifically to fund CIP projects. 50,000 for the Link shuttle service. We have a fund subsidy for the parking fund of almost 380,000. 1.5 million for a fire vehicle that will be delivered in July of this year, and then a subsidy to ensure positive fund balance for the stormwater fund of 225,000.
So if you can set the timer for 3 minutes, we'll give you a 15% grace
Thank
period.
you. I appreciate the extra time. And then in fiscal year 2027, you see a reduction there, and that's specifically related to two things. One, we don't have any additional funding set aside for fleet in 2027, specifically related to fire. And then there is a reduction in the parking subsidy. By 2027, that fund will be self-sustaining, so that has been removed. Future funding needs, you have probably seen this slide in a number of different ways, but we have a number of funding needs specifically related to fleet replacement, building and IT, and capital infrastructure. Focusing on fleet funding needs, the city has an ongoing need to replace its fleet. We have staff. Staff requires vehicle to perform their work. There are a number of challenges that we experience with fleet, procurement being one of them, specifically with fire fleet. It is estimated date of delivery is approximately 4 to 5 years from the date in which it is ordered. There are a number of legislative restrictions and requirements that are coming down that require the cost of EV, including EV infrastructure. And we need to continue to make sure that we are establishing a sustainable fund balance for future purchases. And the next step will be that staff will continue to work on a funding plan and will return to council mid-cycle with more in-depth review of fleet needs and funding strategies. With that, we will move to the second part of our presentations for this evening, which are the department operating budget presentations. The first up will be the administrative and general government, which will be the city manager's office, finance, human resources, and information technology.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Yoon, Assistant City Manager, here to present to you this evening the fiscal years 26 and 27 biennial budget for the City Manager's Office. This is the org chart for the City Manager's Office. The City Manager, of course, leads all city staff, and assisting her in our leadership structure is one Assistant City Manager and 2 Deputy City Managers. The Deputy City Manager on the left of this org chart oversees the day-to-day management of the City Manager's Office, as well as emergency services and risk management. Notable proposed staffing changes here on this side are increasing a part-time security aide to full-time for City Hall security, and elimination of 1 vacant Administrative Specialist 3 position. The Deputy City Manager on the right side of the chart oversees the Public Information Office, where there is 1 proposed change in the college interns. We are reducing the hours in college interns to bring it down from a little under 1 FTE to a portion that is a little under 1/2 of an FTE. And also reporting to the Deputy City Manager here are the Legislative Division, which is functionally part of the City Manager's Office, but has its own section in the budget and is led by our City Clerk, and the Water Pollution Control Plant, which structurally reports to the City Manager's Office as well. Here are the priorities for the City Manager's Office. Of course, the City Manager's Office is charged with administrative policy and management responsibilities as designated by the Charter and the Muni Code. We have 6 priorities we have priorities in 6 program areas. In legislative affairs, we seek to pursue new and protect existing federal and state dollars. We are a city with many needs, and we rely on every dollar we can get. So our legislative affairs program will be working hard to protect that funding. In community relations and communications, we want to saturate the community with information about city programs and services with the goal of increasing community awareness and participation. In risk management, our goal here is to lower risk and reduce our loss ratio. We are part of a joint powers authority for liability and financial protection. And if we exceed 180% in loss ratio for 4 years straight, we are at risk of being expelled from that JPA. So currently we have exceeded 180% for 2 consecutive years. We would like to right our course and not face expulsion. So therefore we are looking to reduce our losses and maintain our membership and coverage through that JPA. For emergency services, we will strive to plan and train the staff as well as community in San Leandro to be prepared in the event of an emergency. And oftentimes this is in a situation where we simulate a full-scale emergency response to an emergency. For parking services, we seek to improve the equipment infrastructure that supports the parking program, and also to make the parking fund self-sustainable by fiscal year 27. And in our water pollution control plant, we would like to explore ways to utilize modern technology to monitor the city sewer system with the overall goal of lowering costs. Here are the performance measures for the City Manager's Office. The first 4 you see here is for what you consider your typical City Manager's Office, and then the 5th one is for our Legislative Division, and the last one is for the Water Pollution Control Plant. But we would like to achieve a positive percentage increase in the Community Satisfaction Survey. This is a survey that is conducted every 2 years, and another one will be conducted this year. We would like to conduct at least 1 full-scale emergency response drill each year for staff. We seek to resolve 80% of liability tort claims within 180 days. We would like to increase the number of followers to city social media by 5% each year. We would, in our legislative department, we are working to transition from at-large voting to district-based voting by June of 2026. And for our water pollution control plant, we seek to clean 80% of the city's sewer system annually. Here are the general fund costs for the city manager's office. This details the changes that you see in the upcoming budget as well as the last few years. Focusing on the proposed budget, the last two columns, you will see that we are proposing to reduce the number you will see that salaries are being increased in fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27. This is largely due to increasing costs of salary adjustments and benefit increases. Director Gonzalez touched on this a little bit, and you'll see this consistently throughout the city. As part of expenditure reductions, the city manager's office significantly brought down the level of planned expenditures and services and supplies. You'll see that we are going down there considerably. And then you see an increase in the internal service funds for fiscal years 26 and 27. This is, as Director Gonzalez stated earlier, due to implementation of a new ERP, as well as the need to focus on fiscally responsible and sustainable asset protection citywide. So overall, you'll see in fiscal year 26, there's a 4% reduction in the city manager's office budget, and then a slight increase of 3% in fiscal year 27. This slide details the general fund changes in the city manager's office budget. For reductions, we are proposing to reduce the number of hours for our college interns, as I stated previously in our org chart. We are reducing planned expenditures for consulting, communications consultants, general consulting, professional team development, and space planning. And office furniture and media equipment has proposed reductions as well. On the increases side, starting with, listed in line 19, you will see that the notable increase there is in professional services of $43,000. This is to supplement the cost of crossing guards for the San Leandro Unified School District. It is about a 15-year-old agreement that the city has with the San Leandro Unified School District to cover 1/2 of their crossing guard costs. And then the slide for special revenue and internal service funds. This consists of the parking fund as well as the self-insurance fund. In both funds, salaries are increasing, salaries are decreasing. This is due to a vacant position that is currently in risk management, but you will also see that in services and supplies, there's a slight decrease before you see an increase for fiscal year 27. This is really a combination of a decrease in claims expenses, but what we are seeing is increasing premiums for insurance coverage is actually offsetting any savings that we are experiencing from the reduced claims. So overall, we see a slight decrease next year before seeing an increase of 9% in fiscal year 27 to accommodate for those rising premiums. So next, I would like to turn it over to City Clerk Kelly Clancy to present the Legislative Department budget, which is functionally part of the City Manager's office. And then when she is done, we will go to Hayes Morehouse, our Water Pollution Control Manager, to present the budget for the plant, which reports to the CMO.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Ewan. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, I'm here to introduce the legislative portion of the budget. The city clerk's office is structured with 3 full-time employees, a city clerk, a deputy city clerk, and an administrative assistant. We also collaborate with the city attorney's office and the city council. This slide, you will see an increase in the fiscal year 2027 budget, which accounts for the unique circumstances because in 2027, we will be conducting 2 significant elections. After this evening's meeting on June 16th, there will be an ordinance before you to propose a ballot measure for 2026 for the district voting. So that will be a special election in June, lumped in with the June primaries. And then we will have the regular election in November of 2026. So the city will have to hold 2 elections in the same year, and we are billed in the same fiscal year 2027. On this slide, we talk about the general fund changes. You will note that the travel and training budgets for the city council, as well as technology allowances, have been reverted to the amounts specified in the 2022 council handbook per the adjustments made by the Finance Committee. You'll note that last year, council spent $57,052 of the budgeted $85,000 travel and training budget. This year, we are proposing to have a $52,000 set aside for travel and training budget for the city council. And for technology, the council in the previous fiscal year spent $16,915, and we are proposing $12,600 for the technology budget, with the inaugural term obviously seeing an increase to allow for technology. On this slide, it notes the PEG funds, which is Public Education Grant Funds, and these are the accounts that allow us to host these council meetings in the chambers, stream online on our TV channel. And you'll see that the PEG fund sees a one-time spike in fiscal year 2025, and that is to modernize our public broadcasting infrastructure and do chambers upgrades. Future budgets maintain only essential operations. And now I will turn it over to Hayes Morehouse.
Oh, thank you. My name is Hayes Morehouse. I'm the Water Pollution Control Manager here for the City of San Leandro. This is the Water Pollution Control organizational chart. I have 6 direct reports. The division includes the collection system, the plant, and the environmental services section. We currently have, our current budget was 41 and FTEs, and we are proposing to eliminate 1.5 FTEs, a college intern and a public works services manager position. Neither of these positions have ever been filled. We decided to not include them. Overall, this enterprise fund includes both the Environmental Services Fund and the Water Pollution Control Fund. Across both these funds, we've seen increased salaries and benefits as the key driver of the 13% increase that we're requesting. We also saw some of our fixed costs increase. So I think, tonight we approved a contract for $830,000 for biosolids removal. That cost has doubled over the last few years from the last contract we had, and we've had other fixed costs that continue to accelerate. We also are working, including funds for proactive maintenance of the treatment plant and the collection system to make sure that we continue to provide reliable service. Questions?
Thank you. Nicole Gonzalez, Finance Director. We'll be presenting the 2026-27 proposed budget for finance. This is the organizational chart for the finance department. We're proposing one change, which is to eliminate a accountant 2, which is currently vacant. Finance department priorities, our sole focus is fiscal stability, working towards long-term fiscal sustainability to ensure health of the organization while balancing core services for the organization as well as the community, budget and analysis, the implementation of the city's new ERP system, which will help complete and enhance efficiencies and effectiveness, as well as data integration and diverse in-depth reporting capabilities, work towards exploring a revenue enhancement opportunity, and then to work consistently to ensure that our audit and compliance are meeting all regulatory agency requirements. Performance measures, the finance department has 4, the first being to work towards the completion and implementation of the enterprise resource planning, which is the ERP, which we have been referring to, 100% by summer of 2026. Percent of business license issued within 14 days. Current target is 98%. We look to increase that in future years. A percentage of ACH or electronic invoice payment processing. We will have that capability with the new system and look to increase the number of electronic invoice processing by 25% in fiscal year 2027, and percent of time that city completes its bank reconciliations within 30 days from the month end close. We're looking to increase that to 70%, 75%, and then in fiscal year 2027, increasing that to 90%. General fund costs, we do see kind of in fiscal year 26, salaries and benefits are essentially flat. This does take into consideration a number of positions that are vacant, including the elimination of the accountant 2 position. This does include all increases associated with labor groups, as well as any costs associated with CalPERS and or medical. You will see that there was a decrease of about $400,000 in fiscal year 26 over services and supplies. No budget for fixed assets. Internal service funds, there is about a $250,000 increase. Again, that is attributed to the different internal service funds that we spoke about earlier, which includes the insurance or the risk fund, as well as IT with the implementation of the ERP system, and no debt. So a decrease of 1% over fiscal year 2025 for a total cost of about $5.1 million in fiscal year 26. A slight increase of $5.2 million in fiscal year 2027 at 3%. And the majority of that increase is related to salary adjustments as well as anticipated cost increase for CalPERS and medical. Some of the proposed general fund changes, the city has a total reduction of about $380,000 in fiscal year 26 and just over $200,000 in fiscal year 2027. The significant increase is related to, again, the elimination of the accountant 2, which is vacant, as well as a reduction in our consultant costs. And again, those are based on our current contracts. And so we did bring down that service level in fiscal year 2026. And then there was a total increase of $27,500 in fiscal year 2026 to account for our participation in the GFOA program, as well as an increase in bank charges and county administrative fees as well. So total net change in fiscal year 26 of $350,000, and in fiscal year 2027, a net savings of just under $190,000. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Emily Hung, Human Resources Director, here to present the Human Resources budget. The Human Resources Department is currently comprised of 12.25 FTE. Our staffing proposal includes the elimination of 1 limited duration HR technician position, which is currently vacant, but we are proposing the extension of 2 limited duration positions for ERP implementation. We're also proposing to convert 1 limited duration HR analyst to an ongoing regular position, and this position is the one that is focused on police department recruitment. We are also proposing to upgrade 1 senior HR analyst position to an HR manager position. So when HR was recognized as a department in 2022, I was promoted from manager to director, but there was no backfill at the manager level. And so HR is the only department in the city that does not currently have a manager or an assistant director. One would be very appreciated. The manager position would be responsible for oversight of day-to-day operations and be my backup, and would allow me a little more time to focus on high-level policy direction, strategic planning, and organizational health. The HR priorities include recruitment and retention. We'll continue our efforts to attract talented and skilled employees, but also focus on ways to retain our high-performing employees. Our other priority is ERP implementation. We're very excited at the implementation of Workday and how new technology is going to automate and streamline our operations and give us more insight through data and analytics. Labor and employee relations. Although we're not negotiating any new contracts in the next 2 years, it's always a priority to maintain good working relationships with our union and bargaining groups, and we'll continue to handle any complaints and grievances to resolution. Employee engagement and wellness. We're continuing to promote a positive workplace, continue with an engagement survey to gauge morale and satisfaction, and then looking at initiatives to support overall employee well-being. Safety and workers' compensation. We'll be conducting an assessment of the city's injury prevention programs and our safety trainings to try to minimize workplace injuries and incidents. And legal compliance. More and more employment and labor laws are being enacted, and we're just trying to stay on top of those to stay compliant. The human resources performance measures includes a vacancy rate below 11%. They're citywide. If you recall from my vacancy presentation a couple of weeks ago, we are currently at 14.7, and we're optimistic at the continued decline of that rate, and below 11%, I think, is a realistic goal in a tight labor market. We are targeting an employee participation rate of over 75% in our next engagement survey. We conduct this survey every 2 years and a smaller pulse survey in between, and above 75% is a realistic and healthy target and solid enough for us to have some reliable data. And our third measure is completion of exit interviews above 75%. Currently, they are voluntary, but we want to try to encourage higher participation so we can collect a little more insight to why people leave and areas that leadership might need to address. Overall, HR budget is primarily, our increase is primarily due to salary and equity increases that were just recently approved. We've kept services and supplies pretty modest. The last 2 years included a very large contract to a consultant to conduct the total class and comp survey. So we're really returning back to 22-23 levels. And then finally, we propose cuts in really just a various number of funds for a net reduction of $218,000 in fiscal year 26 and $95,000 in fiscal year 27. We did need a small increase in consulting for the occasional use of external investigators when there are complaints that may be litigated or need specialized expertise.
Michael Steiner, Technology Officer, here to discuss
You can move closer, just point it up. There you go.
No, I'm okay. The Information Technology Department budget. Here is our IT org chart with the Chief Technology Officer at the top and 3 major divisions. Infrastructure and operations, administration and central services, and innovation and applications. You can see we have 2 limited duration positions, a manager and an analyst. Those are dedicated to the ERP project, and we're proposing to extend those into the next year. We also are proposing to eliminate a part-time position. It's a part-time IT technician position, and that position is vacant. The IT department provides critical technology services to all city departments responsible for developing and maintaining the city's technical infrastructure, business applications, network, data center, servers, storage, GIS, and help desk support. Our priority areas are enabling and innovating city services, modernizing operations, and improving productivity, continually focused on cybersecurity improvements, looking for no ransomware attacks, and continuing our efforts to replace aging infrastructure. Our performance measures include overall customer satisfaction on service requests and incident response at 90%. We're looking for an over 99% percentage of application uptime during business hours. We want 100% of city employees and city council cyber trained. And we are currently working on establishing service level agreements, and our initial targets are service requests and incidents fulfilled within the service SLAs of 85%. So you can see that most departments are focusing on 2026 and 2027, but I think we have to go back a year to 2025 to show there's a large increase. Mainly that's because the ERP project was funded in the IT Internal Service Fund, and that started the majority of it in 2025 and continues in the proposed budget of 2026. So, and then you can see in 2027, the ERP project comes off. Significantly lower in 2025.
there was also several major infrastructure projects. IT budget changes. You can see the part-time and the salaries and benefits were reduced for the part-time staff. And you can see the completion of the ERP implementation coming off in 2027. And some other smaller reductions. So these are the ARPA. Okay, sorry. So the ARPA funding was completed in 2025. This was for a major data center upgrade to replace all of our servers in our data center, virtual and physical.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, members of the public. My name is Brian Simons. I'm here this evening to present the library's portion of the budget to you. So the library org chart, you'll see a director at the top and who oversees 2 managers, as well as the adult services and youth services divisions. Each of those divisions has a supervising librarian, which oversees the day-to-day and heads the day-to-day. And in that structure, there's also other various staffing levels that report to them. The assistant director, which is one of the managers, oversees the technical services and circulation, as well as the branch services divisions. Similar to the other divisions, they're led by the day-to-day, led by supervising librarians who have a mix of other staff who report to those supervising librarians. And then our management analyst supports staffing of the admin assistant, security, as well as maintenance. You'll see here that we are proposing a reduction of staffing of part-time positions that add up to a little over 5 FTEs. I will get in detail more in other slides as to the impacts of those and specifically what those are. So our library department priorities, we will be focusing on cultural programming. This means a real focus on the Heritage Months, public arts, or early childhood education, which really focuses on multilingual story times, as well as other multilingual programming and the milestone programs, and then also educational exhibits. Since the pandemic, we're still seeing the results of the pandemic where it's impacted how people use our facilities and our library services. So contact and connecting outside of the library walls is really important yet, and probably will continue to be. So we look to focus on that for outreach, as well as meeting people where they're at, and then expanding our collaboration with schools, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and business orgs. Traveling exhibits is another area of emphasis in the next coming years. These are very new. While we've done a few exhibits at the library, they've been mostly homegrown. These will be acquired from elsewhere. They'll focus on cultural, arts, science, and nature. We already have a Fred Korematsu exhibit that's booked, and we have a butterflies exhibit, which is very critical for the monarchs here to talk about. And then we are looking at hopefully acquiring a space or Mars exhibit. And then lastly, efficiencies. Repurposing facility spaces for current community needs, similar to what we're doing now with the study pods, is very critical to make sure our facilities keep up with the needs of the community. And then in addition to that, just process improvement in general to make the way we do things more efficient, but also easier to understand for both the public and staff alike. Performance measures. We'll maintain annual library visits. With a reduction of staff, there will be a reduction of open hours, and I'll get into the details of that of those reductions in a few slides. But we feel confident that with the offerings in programming and services, that we'll be able to maintain the visit levels of fiscal year 25. Hours closures will impact when patrons can come check items out. We look to mitigate that impact to circulation by focusing on purchasing high demand items and helping patrons move to electronic use, electronic items when appropriate. Increasing average annual program attendance by 3%. We do not, while the hours and will affect, closure of hours will affect the times people can come, we don't expect to see this loss bleed into program attendees because we strategically chose hours reductions that least impacted the community's access to programming and services. And then lastly, we look to increase the annual study room and pod use by 80%. Now that measure is really for fiscal year 27. In fiscal year 26, we really want to set a baseline. And with the new installation of the pods, that will be, we just got a date for that. It should be the week of August 4th. So that will be happening soon. We believe we'll see about 5,000 uses annually the first year, with the expectation that as the community awareness grows, that we'll see that grow overwhelmingly. So our general fund costs, the library department really is mainly comprised of two large categories. Facilities, we have 4 facilities, and then the staffing necessary to provide services in those facilities. These two big areas represented by internal service fund and the salaries and benefits lines. Although we propose reducing staffing by just over 5 FTEs and significant reductions in our services and supplies expenses, we still see an increase of 8%. As Finance Director Gonzalez stated earlier in the general presentation, the labor contracts as well as the increases in facility maintenance drive these increases. So let's take a little bit deeper dive, a little bit deeper look specifically at the proposed changes. So we'll take staffing first since it is significant. We will eliminate the part-time museum curator. The community impact there is that we will close the museum to the general public. However, we will continue to provide school tours, which account for over 80% of the museum use. So we're really preserving the lion's share of what the museum is used for and what the museum was created for. It was created specifically for 3rd and 4th grade tours. It also supports the San Leandro Unified School District curriculum. We will reduce part-time library aides and also convert part-time security aides to 2 full-time security aides. Now, this community impact is not only a savings, but a positive impact. The security coverage will be more robust and more consistent. Additionally, we propose reducing part-time librarians, part-time clerks, and part-time maintenance aides. The community impact here, this is where we get into the details of the hours closures. With that level of decrease of staff, we look to eliminate Main and Manor branch Sunday hours, as well as reduce Monday open hours from to 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., currently open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're very strategic in choosing these hours because they impact the community the least. Sunday and Monday evenings generally do not, we do not conduct programming, especially youth services programming. And the community typically does not use the library meeting rooms independently during those times as well. We also propose, in addition to the staffing reductions, we propose reducing the public arts funds, the Arts, Culture, and Library Commission advise, as well as reducing some adult programming services. The community impact here is minimally on the adult programming, but it does see a 33% less funding for public arts. And then the final reduction of note is to reduce new purchasing of audio, visual, print books and electronic materials, and reduce program supplies. The impact here is we would reduce new purchases of materials by 31 or 32%, depending what category, as well as a 13% reduction in programming supplies, with a total reduction of 553,000 in fiscal year 26 and 365,000 in fiscal year 27. Special revenue and grant fund costs. These are mostly reflecting our literacy program grants and some other one-time service grants. In fiscal year 25, adjusted budgets show 411,000 in salaries and benefits. This represents an inadvertent budget carry forward. This was an internal process issue we've since rectified with the finance department. Historically, salaries and benefits under special revenues are related to the city's grant funding literacy program and are less than 100,000 each fiscal year. And beginning in 26, you will see that adjustment come to actuals of what we are anticipating. And lastly, I just want to point it out that there were reduction in hours. I want to point out that that does not impact the Mulford location, and that the Mulford location is, the replacement is still slated to reopen fiscal year 27. If council decides to continue with that project, that will come before council next week. Regardless of which library, whether it's the existing facility or new facility, the fiscal year 26-27 budget affords reopening or continuing opening with the current hours, which is 12 hours per week, 1 to 5 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thank you. Turn it over to Rec now.
Mayor and Council, Vicente Zuniga, Recreation Parks Director. I'm going to start with the department organizational chart. We are broken up into 2 divisions, each overseen by a recreation manager, and the parks and urban forestry, as well as golf, overseen by the parks landscape manager. If you notice, we have made some reductions. Currently, that should have been 63.5. We made a total of 11 FTE reductions. So let me just explain while I go over the org chart a little bit of those reductions. On the recreation side, we had a vacant position that we eliminated, a recreation supervisor position. We made some adjustments to some part-time positions. We increased one of the classifications, recreation leaders, by 3. And we also lowered a variety of specialist part-time positions as well as lifeguards. On the parks, urban forestry, and golf side, we made some reductions to the tree trimmers from 4 to 2. Those positions have been vacant for over 4 years. So Recreation and Parks, our mission is to enrich the lives of our community members by providing diverse, accessible recreation programs and preserving natural spaces and fostering a sense of well-being and community engagement. So we have 5 priorities. If you notice, they align with some with our tree master plan. And at our next council meeting, you will see that some of these priorities also will be aligning with the Recreation Parks master plan. So one of those is to expand amenities. And that's by providing visible improvements that meet top community demands and increase the usage of existing parks. Achieve operational excellence. By that, we are looking to streamline permitting, registration, and rental processes, implement data tracking and dashboards for KPIs. We have tree plotter software that inventories all of our trees. We have ActiveNet registration software that takes all of our registration on the recreation side. We have Asset Essentials where we put all our work orders and track staff time and costs for completing tasks. And so we're looking to leverage all that data to make really enhanced park maintenance systems and ensure fiscal responsibility. The next one is strengthen partnerships. So one of the focuses is going to be to build strategic partnerships with local organizations to broaden access to programs and maximize community impact. The next one is to promote environmental stewardship. So you've seen a little bit about that happening with our Beautify initiative, and that's really to integrate sustainable practices into our operations and engage the public in conservation efforts. to protect and enhance our natural spaces. And the fifth one is expand program offerings. The recreation staff has done an amazing job this last fiscal year of really increasing programming. So we want to continue that as a priority of high interest recreation programs to reach underserved populations. And again, to really evaluate our return on investment through cost recovery strategies. Performance measurables. So as I mentioned before, staff's done an amazing job increasing programming. So now we want to make sure one of our targets really to increase the number of registration program registrations. So we're looking at a target of to increase by 10% annually. So 10% in 2026 and another 10% in 2027. We're looking to increase the number of facility rental hours. We're looking to expand picnic reservation dates as well as athletic field reservation dates. So we're really looking to maximize the usage of our parks, our facilities, and our picnic areas. We also want, the next one is to ensure there's no net loss to city maintained trees throughout the city. So that was one of the priorities of the tree master plan. So if a city tree is removed, we're going to replace it. So we're striving for 100% of no net loss for city maintained trees. And then the last one, the range is one of the largest revenue generating functions or amenities or activities at the golf course. So we really want to have a measurable that increases that bucket sold by 5% annually. So as you look at this budget, you do see an increase, as everybody has shared, in services and benefits. We made a huge reduction to 11 FTEs, but a majority of these increases, which is roughly about 450,000, a majority of it is to recent salary adjustments as well as accounting corrections resulting from the department reorg. So there was positions that were budgeted in Public Works that are now in our department. So those are two big chunks of that. Services and supplies, if you notice, it's a huge reduction. We've decreased it by over 680,000. That's also some accounting adjustments, but also just really being efficient in streamlining what our program supplies look like and expenditures. Fixed assets has been lowered as well. And as everybody has shared, the internal service funds has went up roughly about $550,000. So overall, two of the largest increases of over $1 million in salaries and internal service funds. We're a little bit out of our control, but with that, we have an increase in fiscal year 26 of $314,000. But I did want to highlight, we also are projecting an increase of $445,000 in revenue. So the overall subsidy to general fund is going to be less in 2026. 2027, we made some additional reductions. And again, as I mentioned, we're also anticipating an additional $445,000 in revenue. These were the last round of budget reductions. I have a lot of rows, so I'm going to try to give a high-level summary. I'll start with the part-time positions. So the first one, row 3, is eliminate the part-time recreation specialist 3. It was dedicated to creek education. So we were receiving funding from Alameda County Flood Control to hire and oversee a city employee to provide support to San Leandro Creek. Now that funding from Alameda Flood Control is going directly to that organization. The next position is to eliminate a recreation supervisor, which has been vacant. And then I just want to highlight, we are reducing and redistributing part-time hours and focusing on really prioritizing high demand programs. And so although we have reductions, we've redistributed our part-time hours, which are seasonal employees. So we are increasing operating hours at Farley Pool, even with reductions. We're increasing capacity at Chabot and Hootie day camps. We're adding additional staff to enhance contracted instructors. So although we're reducing FTEs, we are contracting out through independent contractors for a lot of special interest classes, and you'll see that in our guides. We're transitioning the Junior Giants program, which has over 300 youth. It's a free baseball program. We've already started to really enhance our volunteer recruitment, so we're hoping to go 100% volunteer-based model in 26 and 27. We're eliminating the park reservation specialist positions, and those were really customer service related positions that helped with the reservations. We're really streamlining a lot of those services to be online, as well as looking to install reservation signs at our picnic site. So we don't see a huge need for that or a lot of community impact with that. Eliminating the kids clubs, I mentioned increasing contract instructors. Kids club was a class that was offered during non-school hours, spring break, winter breaks. We are still going to be providing program. It's just not going to be with city staff. Eliminating volunteer coordination for community beautification. So we have a part-time position that currently does a lot of that. So that'll be absorbed by the supervisor. And then looking at eliminating customer service hours beginning in January 1st, 2026. Through our data, we have really low amounts of transactions on the weekends, and with streamlining our processes and being able to do a lot of online services, we don't see a huge impact. A lot of the other ones are all really related to those positions, since they're seasonal positions. They're all related to a lot of the program expenditures. I just want to highlight the camp field trips. Although we're eliminating the transportation and the admission, we've already started collaborating with East Bay Regional to provide free busing to East Bay Regional Parks, as well as utilizing our already city facilities and pools as field trip destinations. Those are decreases. The increases, as you had seen, those will offset some of the decreases. So professional services, again, as I mentioned, increasing contractors for providing services, and also increasing our seasonal guide from 3 to 4, increasing mandated training for CPR and first aid related things. Special services and enterprise fund. So a majority of these are related to park and lieu fees, grants, ARPA, golf, and marina. So you have seen a decrease in 2026 and then an increase in 2027. A lot of that has to do with some budgeting for some major facility improvements and course maintenance, as well as we also are planning to budget, I believe for the first time in a very long time, for riprap repair, maintenance repair, upwards to $350,000, as well as increased funding for tide gate maintenance, which is sorely needed. Some of the decreases in there, just really quick, which is related to the marina, is a lot to do with building maintenance, as we don't have those facilities there any longer. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Lobadan, Human Services Director. I'm pleased to present to you this evening the biennial budget for the Human Services Department. The department is comprised of the director and is supported by 2 administrative staff who support the department-wide functions, a manager and administrative assistant. Notably, we are proposing an elimination of the vacant management analyst position, which was approved as part of the FY24, FY25 mid-cycle adjustment process. That position, again, has been vacant since it was approved. Other notable changes to the organizational chart include adding 2 full-time equivalent staff in senior services to support customer service functions and facility functions. These were previously managed by the Recreation and Parks Department, and it's part of the ongoing administrative cleanup of separating these 2 departments. Other notable features of the organizational chart, there's really 3 core components of our department to provide senior services, homelessness response, and community outreach and support. The Human Services Department advances equity and well-being in San Leandro by funding and coordinating programs that address homelessness, support seniors, and strengthen community-based services. To that end, over the next 2 fiscal years, we have 4 primary priority focus areas. We'll be working on preventing homelessness in San Leandro through launching the Homelessness Prevention Rental Assistance Program, and through exploring the development of youth-focused programs that really address prevention of homelessness and joblessness among the youth in our city. We'll be looking to expand and enhance senior services through implementing the age-friendly action plan and through diversifying senior community services, as well as through really focusing on being efficient in our space utilization of the senior community center. We'll also be looking to support local service providers through continuing to seek external grant funding to address the growing community need that our nonprofits support while limiting the impact on the city's general fund. Additionally, one of our core priorities will be sustaining the alternative response unit. And lastly, we'll be focusing on strengthening data evaluation and accountability. Now, more than ever, it's very critical that as a department, we are very clear about where our limited dollars are going and working to identify baseline data across all of our grant-funded programs. Across fiscal year 26 and 27, there are 3 performance measures that we'll focus on. The number of individuals served through organizations receiving community agency program grant funding. We'll focus on increasing the number of Flex Ride program members by 5% annually, and we'll be tracking the number of unduplicated individuals served with interim housing at the Llewellyn Navigation Center annually. These are new performance measures, and so we're really working to identify the baseline data across these core service areas. Here I'll focus on some of the notable changes that we see from fiscal year 25 to 2026. We see a slight decrease in our salaries and benefits, which is based on the elimination of the vacant management analyst position. We see a significant reduction in our services and supplies, and I will call out that the 5.7 million budget for FY25 is comprised of not only our baseline budget that was authorized through the biennial budget process, but also through contracts that were carried forward and through council authorized funds that occurred throughout the fiscal years. And so we see a pretty large budget there, but it's not just our baseline budget. As other departments have mentioned, we also saw an increase in our internal service fees. Some of the notable changes within our general fund reductions, we are proposing a reduction of $617,000 to professional services in fiscal year 26 and $677,000 reduction in fiscal year 27. Professional services and human services are funds that go either directly to nonprofits or to consultants who do work in support of human services, such as updated studies or assessments. I'll go in depth into what all of these reductions are comprised of over the next 2 years. And the other notable change in reduction in this section is under rent and concessions. These are funds that Human Services has been accumulating for operations of the Llewellyn Interim Housing and Drop-In Center. And so rather than request new funds for FY26 and FY27, we'll be utilizing the funds that we have accumulated a fund balance for. So there will be no impact on services. We'll be able to use the funds that we have, but we just won't be requesting new funds. So I'm going to go through a summary of the reductions for the professional services funds that we've been allocated. Firstly, staff are proposing a reduction in funds for the Congregate Winter Shelter Program. Our recommendation will be $50,000 for fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27. This is if you look at the start of the budget process, this is a total reduction of $110,000. We are looking to seek county funding to sustain this program. However, that funding is not guaranteed. And if we don't receive it, that could either mean the elimination of this program or a significant reduction in services. Staff are proposing eliminating funding for the Winter Shelter Motel Voucher Program. This has been funded at $100,000, and this reduction is based on conversations with the provider that predate the budget process, where they've expressed concerns for capacity issues to focus on various initiatives in the community and how they'd prefer to focus their capacity on more impactful programs. Staff are proposing reducing funding for domestic violence case management. This funding reduction would have an impact on eliminating funding for youth and public education presentations and a dedicated phone line for San Leandro residents. That being said, and you'll see this as a theme in human services, that we've tried to get really creative about identifying funds this year that can front load some of these organizations to reduce the impact over the next 2 fiscal years. So we are looking to allocate funds to a few organizations so that we can get into contract with them. There won't be a negative community impact. So you won't see that line item here, but what that means is that in future fiscal years, that there may not be identified funding. We are proposing eliminating funding for an updated human services gaps analysis, reducing our fiscal year 27 funding allocation for the countywide 211 system. This is a system that's used across Alameda County, which every city contributes to. While our community members will still be able to access this service, it's really an in-kind goodwill contribution that each city makes to this public benefit. For fiscal year 27, we are exploring eliminating funding for immigration services at the San Leandro Community Center. These services would continue to be offered at an alternative location of the nonprofit. They just wouldn't be located at the senior center. For fiscal year 27, we're also looking to slightly reduce our funding for homelessness mobile outreach. This may have an impact on the available staff that staff this service, which could reduce the number of days that the provider goes out into the community and does homeless outreach. These next 2 programs, again, at the beginning of the process, staff had identified a community need to support both senior lunch programs at the senior center as well as basic needs programs. Both of these services have been funded through the community agency funding process. And as such, the funding recommendation directly through human services has been reduced. And lastly, staff have recommended eliminating funding for age-friendly action plan implementation. We had identified $67,000 in funds to implement this action plan, and we've eliminated our funding recommendation here. We will continue to implement the age-friendly action plan, but we'll need to get creative in how we do it. So in total, we have a revised budget of $382,000, which will go directly to nonprofits to support work in the community for fiscal year 26, and for fiscal year 27, a total revised budget of $248,000. We've also, as other departments have shared, do have increases to our budget. Notably, we are seeking ongoing general fund support for the Alternative Response Unit, which was previously funded through ARPA funds. Our ARPA funds will carry us through the majority of fiscal year 26, but we will need a portion of the fiscal year 26 covered through the general fund, and we'll need the full fiscal year 27 covered through the general fund. So in summary, our net change for human services is a $1.5 million reduction for FY26 and a $244,000 reduction for FY27. Under special revenue, we are also seeing a reduction, notably in our services and supplies funds, with a slight increase in our salaries and benefits. I will share, however, that some of our special revenues come in halfway through the fiscal year at times, sometimes even 3/4 the way through the fiscal year. And so it's possible that we will receive additional special revenue funds that we have yet to know about. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council, General Public. Paige Bowie here to present the fire department's portion of the budget this evening. All right, here's our organizational chart. In general, our suppression staffing remains unchanged. We have 63 firefighters, as well as the supervision of battalion chief, division chief, fire chief, and fire marshal. You will note the plan check positions with the strike through, as these are part of the proposed budget cuts. These are vacant positions we have eliminated, and there'll be more details to come on the coming slides about that. We will continue to provide the regional services that you see that we've always provided. So our current fire department priorities, they are driven by our mission and our core values. And I'll start off, current priorities of our fire station alerting system replacement, just briefly. This has already been mostly funded, but it is, you will see when you look at our general fund, significant increase from 23 to 24, and I wanted to say that this was partly because of this. This large project will begin late this year and will improve the health and safety of our firefighters. An alerting system, ours is decades old, and basically what it does is wakes our firefighters with bright lights and loud noise in the middle of the night, and as you might imagine, not good for their long-term health. So this new system is much, much better for our firefighters' health, allows them to hopefully not spike their heart rate quite as high and do their job a little bit better and serve the community better. So thank you for that. Community emergency response training and personal emergency preparedness remains a top priority. Emergency response, of course, is our bread and butter and the heart of what we do, but in so many ways, preparedness and prevention are equally as critical, and we will continue to provide education and working with the community on that. At the bottom, two of our newer, larger priorities, Director Lobadan already mentioned the alternative response unit. This is a true partnership with fire and PD and human services. This unit is providing a critical service, averaging 10 to 12 calls a day. In addition to giving PD a bit more capacity to run 911 calls, the unit has made significant relationships with respite shelters, connected dozens to substance use abuse and medicine services. And notably recently has really made strides with CareCourt. It's probably one of the best operators in the state as far as we can tell in terms of making recommendations and referrals. And we're working very hard to get some of our more chronic clients the help they need. So more information to come on that. Lastly, fire system station replacement, excuse me. Fire stations 9, 12, and 13 were built in 1969, and they do require replacement to meet current codes and standards. We do look forward to partnering with the city and the public to secure funding to build safe, accessible, and modern fire stations. This speaks obviously to the safety and health of our firefighters, but also to the community. The new stations can withstand earthquakes. They hold extra apparatus and personnel when we increase staffing for special events like the 4th of July or Red Flag Days, and they're very welcoming to the public. So our performance measures, excuse me. The first one, our Fire Code Administration meeting requested timeframe for plans checks. So the 2 positions that were eliminated are in that category. We usually, you'll see 90% as that goal. It's dropped it to 80. We will, of course, to strive to absorb all the impacts of that, but there might be some lag in our approval time. For reference, we approve about 700 plan checks a year. The middle 2 performance objectives relate to certain PEP, what I've talked about before. We do not anticipate not being able to meet demand when it comes to that. And then lastly, emergency responses. So our first due fire apparatus arriving on scene under 5 minutes, 90% of the time. That's a perennial objective for fire. We work very hard to keep meeting that. That number hovers around 90 to 91% every year. Our call volume has gone up, training's gone up, traffic has gotten worse. We've managed to keep our training up, work with new technology, make sure our engineers know where they're going, know the area very well. So For reference, we averaged over 12,000 calls last year, or excuse me, yes, 2024, and that was about a 2% increase from 2023. All right, general fund costs. I'd say you can expect to see about a 3 to 7% increase every year for fire. The large change I talked about from 23 to 24, just wanted to point out, part of it is that alerting system replacement I mentioned. Another part of it was 2 large recruit academies we had that year, as well as increases in our health premiums as well. And then you'll see the 2% to 7%. That 2% is mainly for the budget cuts we made for 2026. It goes back up slightly 2027 because part of our budget cut is one time. So here are the reductions. I mentioned earlier the plan check positions. There's one other finance position that we're eliminating. We're reducing our recruit academy next year from 24 to 12 recruits. And then the large one-time reduction in retiree health benefits for OPEB contribution for unfunded liabilities. That's a one-time change, and that is $1 million. I would say that this is everything the fire department can do without getting into directly impacting service delivery, excuse me. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Angela Averett, the Police Chief, and I'll be presenting on the 26-27 biannual budget for the Police Department. This is the department's organization chart. The Police Department is basically divided into 2 sides of the house. On one side, we have operations, and the other side, we have services. The operations division is overseen by an assistant chief and includes patrol, investigations, animal control, jail operations, and the traffic unit. The services division is overseen by a captain and includes the professional standards, support services, which is dispatch and records, and business administration units. We are currently authorized for 138.4 FTEs, and we are proposing to remain at 138.4, and we are proposing to remain at 138.4 FTEs. The San Leandro Police Department is committed to providing professional police services and safety to our community in a manner in which we ourselves expect. Our core values reflect teamwork, integrity, professionalism, and service. Our priorities include technology and data-driven policing, accountability and transparency, staff wellness and training, policy review, and recruitment and retention. For technology and data-driven policing, we will promote the use of data analytics and predictive policing tools to allocate resources more effectively and prevent crime. We also are supporting the use of body cameras, dash cameras, and other technologies to focus on crime prevention and increase community safety. In the area of accountability and transparency, we will continue our collaboration with the independent police auditor and the Community Police Review Board to ensure transparency and accountability, while also cultivating a department-wide culture of continuous improvement. We also will ensure our policies on the use of force emphasize crisis intervention and de-escalation techniques, as well as non-lethal alternatives. In the area of officer wellness, we will focus on the need for comprehensive mental health and wellness programs for all PD staff to reduce stress, burnout, and PTSD. Continuous professional development training in areas such as de-escalation, cultural competency, and ethical decision-making. Policy review. Ongoing review and reform of policies related to police use of force, racial bias, and other critical areas, with an emphasis on the importance of reform efforts to ensure policing practices align with evolving community standards and human rights. Lastly, for recruitment and retention, we want to attract, hire, and retain talented and skilled employees to reduce vacancies and employee turnover. Our performance measures include a focus to hire 3 police officers per quarter, to restart the info sharing crime intelligence meeting, and to then use analytical data to deploy staff, and lastly, implement annual implicit bias training. We're planning to host an implicit bias training before the end of this year. As it relates to hiring, year to date, we have hired 5 police officers and are on track to meet our goal of 12. Last year, we hired 15 police officers, and so we hope to meet and exceed our annual goal. As it relates to general fund costs, in the salaries and benefits section, it includes salary adjustments in accordance with current labor agreements, increasing costs associated with CalPERS and medical costs. Fiscal years 26 and 27 assume salary savings based on the current number of vacancies in the police officer position. Currently, there are 21 vacant police officer positions. However, given the industry challenges with attracting and retaining police officers, the department has continued to work towards providing necessary service levels and as such has underfilled 5 vacant police officer positions with police service technicians, and 5 of those, and 2 police dispatchers. These underfilled assignments also yield salary savings due to the salary differential between a police officer and a PST and dispatcher. For services and supplies, the department reduced the budget by approximately $1.6 million. The internal service funds, as were explained earlier, are overhead or indirect costs necessary for running the department. Overall, we are projecting smaller budget increases year over year from 6% to 4% between fiscal years 26 and 27. General fund changes. For fiscal year 27, we are proposing $636,000 in reductions and $37,000 for fiscal year 27. These reductions include wellness program funding, employee recognition, non-post training, one-time expenditures, a reduction in recruitment ads, and reallocation of software costs to IT, which I'm sure they appreciated. Many of our increases are also due to rising service costs. There will be an increase of approximately $212,000 in fiscal year 26 and $35,000 in fiscal year 27. These increases include higher costs related to vehicle towing contracts, increased police academy costs, fuel, pre-employment backgrounds, and our animal services contract. And while we're on the subject of our animal services contract, there's a very high cost of providing animal control services in our city. Under the current budget proposal, we are only asking for a 6-month contract with the East Bay SPCA at a cost of approximately $180,000. The cost for a full year of services, however, hovers around $360,000. The police department has and will continue to research other more cost-effective alternatives. However, there's a very strong possibility that I will be before you in a few months asking for more money to cover the additional cost of our ongoing animal control contract. When adding the reductions and increases, the proposed budget has a net reduction change of $423,000 for fiscal year 26 and a slight increase of $1,350 for fiscal year 27. And lastly, special revenue costs. These funds include the Heron Bay Fund, Asset Forfeiture Fund, Fleet, and Grants Fund. The salaries and benefits encompass the Heron Bay Fund. The services and supplies include our fleet maintenance, and the fixed assets include our fleet. This concludes my presentation, and I will now hand it off to the Public Infrastructure Group.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm Nick Tom, Assistant Public Works Director. I'll be going through the Public Works budget. Public Works Department consists of 4 divisions: engineering, environmental services, administration, and maintenance. Engineering is primarily responsible for capital projects, encroachment and land development permits, and management of our transportation system. This budget proposes to eliminate 5 FTE from the engineering division, consisting of the following: elimination of 1 limited duration engineering inspector, which has been vacant for less than a year. This position will reduce the amount of oversight we provide for public and private construction. Elimination of 1 limited duration engineering tech, which has been vacant for less than a year. This will have no impact on workflow, as the position was created to assist with workload while the permit software was updated. The software project is complete and the position is no longer needed. Elimination of 2 limited term engineers, which have been vacant less than a year. This will reduce our capacity to deliver CIP projects. Elimination of college interns equivalent to 1 FTE, no impact to the public, potential future increased difficulty in recruitment of qualified engineers. Environmental Services is primarily responsible for administration of our solid waste program, stormwater compliance, and implementation of our climate action plan. No changes are proposed. Administration is primarily responsible for support of the other divisions, including acting as first point of contact for the public records request, contracts and payments, budget management, staff reports, record keeping, and processing release of deposits. This budget proposes to eliminate 1 admin assistant, which has been vacant for less than a year. The public may see slower processing time for permit payments and releases of deposit. The Maintenance Division is primarily responsible for maintenance of our streetlights, traffic signals, signs, parking meters, fleet vehicles, pavement, and facilities such as City Hall, libraries, and pools. We also perform street sweeping and manage illegal dumping, graffiti, and encampments within the public right-of-way. This budget proposes to eliminate 5 FTE positions from the Maintenance Division as follows: elimination of 2 maintenance workers, which have been vacant for more than 2 years, and elimination of 1.5 FTE part-time maintenance aides, all from the paving section. This will result in reduced capacity or longer lead times for pavement crack sealing, repair of potholes, sidewalk grinds, and pavement replacement. Elimination of an equipment services technician. This position was added a year ago. Excuse me. This position was added a year ago to free up the mechanics from routine work such as oil and tire changes, but due to backlog in the HR department, it was never been filled. Elimination means work will continue as before without any additional support for the mechanics. Finally, elimination of a high school intern position, no impact to the public, potential future increased difficulty in recruiting maintenance staff. Overall, the budget proposes to reduce public works staff from 82.5 FTE to 71.5 FTE, a cut of 11 positions or 13%. Looking ahead to the next year, Public Works plans to make pavement maintenance, transitioning to electric vehicles, roof maintenance, and replacement of the Cary Haas pedestrian bridge a priority. We are also implementing the new bicycle and pedestrian master plan, as well as our trash-free San Leandro initiative. We plan to track 4 performance measures. We have set timelines for resolving facility service requests, removal of illegal dumping, not to be confused with encampment cleanups, repairing traffic signals, and processing of permit applications. For each of these, we have a target for how frequently we will meet the objective. This slide shows our historical and projected general fund costs. Column E is our current budget. The staff cost shown in E assumes we are fully staffed. However, we average about 10% vacancies across the entire department. The elimination of the positions listed in the org chart has resulted in a decrease of staff costs for fiscal year 26. Planned salary increases, as well as anticipated increases in benefit costs, raise this cost slightly in 2027. We have made minor adjustments to our service and supplies budget. The majority of this funding is used to buy materials we need to perform the work. We can't repair roads without asphalt. We can't repair buildings without parts. We can't repair vehicles without parts. This slide has deductions, and the following slide has additions that show some of the line items that were changed during development of this budget. Before we looked at reducing our budget, we first looked at ensuring our budget matched actual staff expenditures. Lines 2, 8, 9, and 10 on this slide, as well as line 2 on the next slide, are changes made to bring our budget into line with our actual work charges. Lines 3 through 6 show the financial savings from elimination of some of the positions previously described. The other large number here is line 13. This is an accounting change to reflect the department reorganization and is not a reduction in service. As mentioned, line 2 matches the budget with actual work charges by staff. Line 4 is an increase to the budget to cover enhanced encampment cleanups. This work was previously funded from ARPA funds. This is my final slide. It shows the cost of work not charged to the general fund. About 60% of public works costs are funded from these other funds. On the general fund slide, we saw a significant impact on the salary and benefit line due to staff reductions. We see a much smaller impact here as only 1.5 positions eliminated were charged to these funds. Line 3, services and supplies, includes gas tax funding for CIP projects and just thus varies from year to year. Line 4 costs are driven by vehicle purchases. We are making a push this year and in fiscal year 26 to buy heavy duty vehicles before fiscal year 27 when they're required to be electric. We want to delay purchase of heavy duty electric vehicles because at this time there are very few options. They are generally imported from other countries and durability has yet to be proven. Additionally, technology is changing quickly. Heavy duty electric vehicle availability is poor and the cost is high. In fiscal year 26, we also have funding for replacement of a fire engine. That's the end of the public works section.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Is everybody awake? I'm highly caffeinated, so I think I can get this going. And so, ready to go. Good evening. I'm here to present the biennial for community development. I'm Tom Liao, the community development director, and our executive team, our assistant director, Avalon Schultz, is here as well. We have 5 divisions. We have planning, community preservation, economic development, housing, and building. We are currently at about 34.5 full-time employed, and we are proposing to stay intact at that level. A couple notable changes for you. We are looking to eliminate 2 created positions a couple years ago that were never filled, a housing specialist and a plan check engineer. But kind of to offset that, we are proposing 2 new positions for the newly established rent registry program that you all adopted. And we're looking at a management analyst and a housing specialist just for that program. I do want to point out that there was a comment I heard in the public realm earlier that was incorrect. So we are not cutting back on housing. So I just wanted to establish that from this org chart, and I can go into more detail a little bit more. Community development priorities. We are committed to planning, maintaining, and improving our diverse communities' quality of life, economic opportunities, and safety. In these 4 kind of goals, we are really focused on economic growth and development, particularly residential. With economic development, you all approved, I think, the very visionary economic development strategy that stamps a local vision for us to grow. We're really excited in the next year trying to commit and stay focused on key items like the innovative action strategy and the city brand assessment and marketing strategy, which will be forthcoming. In terms of development, you all know that we are in a down cycle, but we are committed to continue to assess market feasibility for development of industrial, commercial, and particularly housing. You're very well of some key opportunity sites that we have at Bayfair and downtown, our 2 major growth areas. And of course, Shoreline and Kaiser North are also very prominent opportunity areas as well. Another area that we've been focusing on is delivering quality services. We are in the process of doing a service delivery assessment that is including all departments that are impacting the permit center. So that's also public works and fire, as well. So it's IT and finance. This is an interdepartmental effort to improve not only service delivery, to help both bring growth and development and businesses, but also to provide better customer service. Lastly, one of our core functions, as you know, we have a lot of regulatory requirements that we do, and in some areas now are new to us. We're being more proactive with code enforcement, thanks to your sort of encouragement and prioritization. We also are bringing in more housing protections, such as rent registry, and now we are exploring rent stabilization. But we have ongoing commitments to both state and federal requirements, affordable housing, with building codes, with the Environmental Quality Act. So these are things that we are constantly mandated and having to do. In terms of our performance measures, they are basically kind of categorized as furthering your priorities for housing and economic development. We have basically 4 that we're looking at. A lot of them are basically focused on better community service and also economic growth. As you can see, we are very sensitive to making sure that we streamline our processes with building and planning approvals. So we're looking to maintain a high standard for completing building division plan checks within 10 days, issuing building permits within 4 or fewer cycles of comments. Similarly with planning as well, issuing planning application approvals with 3 or fewer cycles of comments. So that's really important to us. And I'd say for a couple of those, we've already, the last 2 years, have met or exceeded those goals. In terms of distributing commercial incentives funds, we're also looking at helping 3 businesses a year with our exterior interior grants, about 50,000, that have huge impact. We feel helping give out larger grants and making them more transformative. In terms of our general fund, I would hone in here on where we are with 2025. We had a lot of carryover and we had a lot of vacancies, which we are now in the process of filling up. And so as you'll see with the next 2 years, we've ratcheted it down, but our costs have increased some because of the rent registry program that is being proposed. It's being proposed at a half-year level because it really won't start until January, and then it's being budgeted at a full-year level for 2027. I'll highlight the key fund changes in terms of reductions. You'll see it's really the big ticket items are the positions that I mentioned, the housing specialist and the plan check engineer that were created a couple years ago but were never filled. In a couple areas of community impact, we're also showing especially our reducing some of our consulting and studies costs related to community preservation, housing, and planning. And then also some reduction we're seeing, especially in 2027, for the facade or commercial improvement program, we're proposing a reduction there. So we'll have 1 less grant to give out. In terms of our total increases, I think I would just focus really, the big ticket item here is the proposed implementation of a rent registry program. And so that really involves the creation of 2 new positions to support that and make it fully effective and enforceable. There's also related costs, purchasing software, maintaining that software, and then also probably bringing in some expertise through a third party. So that's really the big ticket item, I think, for us in our area for the increases. In terms of our 2026 proposal, we're almost 120,000 increase for the first year, but then we've ratcheted down to a reduction of over 50,000 for year 2. And in terms of the special revenue costs, we are a department, I believe, that prides ourselves in finding where the money is. So again, you can see that in 2025, over almost $6 million of that. A lot of that is tied to the Llewellyn Interim Housing Drop-In Center. Millions of dollars came in for that. We also have over $1 million of planning grant money for the Bayfair TOD area that will be coming forward to you over the next year or so. And then we also have access to, in addition to federal and state funds, we have some local committed funds for affordable housing. We have link shuttle funds. We brought in some federal ARPA money and also ongoing redevelopment money that also comes back to us too through a payment system called ROPS. So we are also expecting some more of the special fund money in 2026 and then being a little bit more conservative in 2027. So with that. I'm going to hand this back to Director Gonzalez.
Thank you. And I promise to be brief. I know it's been a lot of information in what seems like a lot of time, but really a really short amount of time for the information that we did provide to you. Just wanting to provide a quick overview of the overall feedback that we received from the Finance Committee and the direction that we received from the committee during the two presentations in April and in May. Just again reminding the community as well as the council that the direction was for fiscal year 26 and 27 that all expenses less transfers would be equal to projected revenue. As I stated earlier, we did meet that goal for fiscal year 26. The council committee for finance was very thoughtful and allowed us some grace to be very strategic and thoughtful in how we look to make further reductions so that we fully understand the impacts on not only the staff here within this organization, but also the impacts it has on our community. Also wanting to just remind the council and the community that additional funding for the rent registry, alternative response unit, and encampment cleanup was also included and supported by the Finance Committee. Presented during the Finance Committee was a request to support a $500,000 increase for funding for a revenue measure campaign effort. That was not supported unanimously by the Finance Committee. But the Finance Committee did recommend that the budget that we provided, the proposed budget we provided to them on May 12th, be forwarded to the full council for consideration, in which you are receiving this evening. I just do want to provide a quick overview of the ARPA projects that were presented to the committee that requested general fund support for continuation. This is the list that was presented to the committee. The two projects that were supported by the Finance Committee for continuation through the funding of the general fund was the alternative response unit, as well as the encampment cleanup, both of which were included in the department presentations. And then just high level, what are our next steps? On June 9th, you will receive a presentation from the Public Works Department. It is a council work session on the city's CIP presentation. On June 10th, we will have the city manager's town hall. That will be a virtual meeting, which will be the delivery of the proposed budget. And then June 16th, we will hold a public hearing and adoption of the proposed fiscal years 26-27 biennial budget. This evening, we have two requests. One is the consideration of additional funding to support the revenue measure campaign. And then the second is to provide feedback and input to staff on the presented proposed biennial budget.
I mean, seriously, that was 2 hours and you guys were amazing. You gave us the right type of information. So I do want to thank you. I know a lot of work went into this. And I know you guys took a fair amount of browbeating or whatever the right term is from the Finance Committee, and you did respond. So we're very grateful just from the outset about all the information that you have provided us. At this point in time, what I'd like to do is be cognizant of the time that we have. Right, we've got 25 minutes till our assigned go to bed time, unless you guys choose to extend again. And out of courtesy to every council member, if every council member takes 5 minutes, that puts us past our time. So what I'd like to do is ask to see if there's willingness to extend past 11. And if there's not, that's okay. But let's just recognize in the questions that we ask, or we can just say, hey, I appreciate the thoroughness and I like what I see. Right? So we don't have to comment. So let's just kind of see where this goes next. Councilmember Villegas-Walton.
I'm sorry. Can we extend to 11:15?
Okay, 11:15.
Is there a second?
Is there a motion? I'm going to go to
I second the motion.
No, we got a motion. I got a motion from Villegas-Walton, second from Councilmember Bolt for extension of our time to 11:15. Please vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Simon voting no.
Okay, at this point in time, we'll kind of go down the row and let you take your, this is really commentary. You can do questions as well if you see the need to ask questions. I know that we each had this material and had the opportunity to ask some questions, I know. So let's just proceed with Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much to everybody that's been working on this, and also to the Finance Committee for your work on this as well. This is incredibly dense, and I really appreciate all the hard decisions that were made. If somebody could share the process, just overall in terms of how each department went about making the proposed budget reductions.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So each department has very different operational needs, as well as just day-to-day operational impacts on the community. And so what we looked at was specifically the type of operations that each department provides. A reduction in the finance department will be very different than in the police department. And so being very thoughtful about the type of work as well as the workforce, so that we could really balance. So not every department was given the same target, but absolutely looking at the services that are provided. Are there services that are considered core services and essential versus some areas potentially where there are reductions, specifically with programmatic operational?
Great, thank you.
If I could have City Manager also clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Gonzalez is 100% correct, but the other thing I wanted to add is the departments, even from the onset, were given direction by me. Let me back up. Assistant City Manager Michael Ewan has presenting about this structural deficit, and he's been telling us when he was Finance Director that this budget cycle is the time we will have to fix this problem. So we knew that even before we showed up to the Finance Committee meeting that we had to scrub budgets for every dollar we could find. And my direction to the departments to do that were two things. Find every dollar you can find, but when you're doing that, look at every way to cut that does not impact the community, and secondly, does not impact the staff that's currently employed. So anyone that's currently in a seat. And so they did that. They scrubbed for every dollar they could find in with those parameters. And when we got to the Finance Committee gave us clear direction that that was not enough. You need to go back and do more. And so we did. And so Director Gonzalez's answer is related to that more. But at first, there was a lot of cuts that were made just to present to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. The other thing I want to say is that I appreciate having the performance measures and also the city priorities, but the feedback that I would give for that is it's not necessarily clear which, with the performance metrics, how they roll up to the priorities. And I think that that would be beneficial, especially if we're understanding exactly how the money is being spent in terms of reaching those goals. For example, with HR, employee engagement and wellness and legal compliance is one of the priority goals. But then in the cuts, we're reducing the employee wellness initiatives and reducing trainings, memberships, and the number of law posters. So it seems counter to the goal of it. And if there's if there's a different explanation for it or how it actually affects it, that would be really helpful to understand. I only have a minute and a half left, but one of the things I was struck by was, and I'm sure that people are gonna say, of course you are, but SLUSD crossing guards, have we communicated with the school district about not providing that funding for it? Obviously, as we have like a Vision Zero policy as well.
So I can take that, Vice Mayor. This is something that we have not had that discussion with the school district, but it's something that we will be exploring over the next year to see whether or not there are opportunities to readjust that funding level.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate I heard over and over again that, everybody's being really creative with how they're going to provide the programming still. And I believe that you all will. I really do. I just worry about us not really being able to do it because it's just going to be much more difficult to find the funding, or if there's not, you know, if the county doesn't come back with something or if there are more clawbacks. And so I would love, and I appreciate the fact that there's going to be that mid-cycle adjustment. I just really want to stay engaged and have really explicit and transparent progress on it. So if we can't find the funding, for us to really know that we can't find it, I don't want to just say that we're going to figure out a way to make it happen and we actually can't make it happen, because there's a lot that we're talking about that is directly impacting residents, especially their day-to-day just quality of life.
Then I'm going to pass to City Manager for a quick comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for a point of clarification for the record and the council members, is that the mid-cycle adjustment are more cuts from what the direction we had from the Finance Committee, and if the council concurs with that direction. I want to just put that on the record because I don't want someone to think that the mid-cycle will be we'll spend more money. It will mean we will find approximately $5.7 million for fiscal year 28 and another $8.1 million for fiscal year 29, and then whatever is necessary for fiscal year 27. So we're talking about significant cuts in the mid-cycle.
Councilmember Bolt, please.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate the time and effort you put in. I heard about the $5 million emergency fund a few times. And so I think that's maybe something we need to look at. I feel like we talked about it before, and even during COVID, when that was a major emergency, we spent like $2 million of it and we put it back. So maybe looking at that, I don't know. I wouldn't say get rid of it, but maybe reducing that. Obviously, we put that money in there when the times were good. 20% recommended. That I believe you said that that's like a region type thing that a lot of.
Yeah, it's a national government officers association. Often municipalities look to that direction for best practice. And so that is their best practice, is to have a 20% reserve balance for your total expenditures.
And that seems legit. Like, I know they all say it, but to you, that's like, yeah, no, we need that.
Absolutely. And we often refer to them when we're looking at policy development as they create specific standards as well as best practices.
Okay, thank you. We talked about upgrading the fleets, and I think it's in a few different areas. It's not just one department, it's multiple departments. Maybe we reduce the amount we're upgrading and not, I don't know how. I know some of this is about going to electrical, and I heard the comment about, buying an electrical heavy equipment vehicle might not be in our best interest when it's one of the first ones off into the market, and then it falls apart and we're stuck holding the bag. So I agree with that. Buy something before we have to go there, and then it's grandfathered in for us. But maybe we don't need to buy them all, right? Maybe we can scale back the amount. Okay, so let me just move. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Excellent question. We did consider carefully which vehicles to replace. In the proposed budget, we have funding in fiscal year 26 for replacement of a fire engine that is 4 or 5 years overdue for replacement. And we have replacement money. We have money to replace only the heavy duty vehicles that we wish to purchase before the expiration of our availability. If we had more money, we would be on schedule to replace other vehicles. We're delaying replacement of probably another dozen vehicles. So this is just the minimum. And there's virtually no money in fiscal year 27 for replacements.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Mike, on your slides, at one point you said risk management. That's our lawsuits, right? That's what you're talking about? On page 24, you're talking about risk management, and you're saying reduce it. You're saying try not to get sued as much.
That's certainly one aspect of it, Councilmember Bolt. The other aspect is prior to a lawsuit, it is likely a claim. So even a reduction in claims would help.
Okay. All right, thank you. HR department, when you said they didn't backfill you, I wrote this down, so I want to say it's kind of like job security. Who cares if no one's there? Good for you. IT, yes, I saw a few of you guys look around when you're sitting up here in the front row because you hear that crackling speaker. We gotta. I know this building's old, and we have to. And this goes just to everything that we're doing. Everything takes money. It takes a lot. So I don't envy the position you guys are in to try and figure this out. Library and parks, the most forward-facing departments besides police and fire. Sorry, Chief Everett, I see you gazing at me. But this, I think, is really important because we can cut a lot of things in the peripheral, but you start cutting back on parks and library, and this room will be full. So the least amount we can do there, the best. Across the board, a lot of these cutbacks were just unfilled positions that we're not going to fill. So good. So if we're finding ways like that and nobody's losing the job, I love it. But the hard truth is there's going to be some more down the road. I'm going to put an addition in here, which is the Memorial Day. I would love to see some support on Memorial Day. I know that's not an easy ask, but dang it. Okay, one more thing. I hear everybody talking about cuts, but I don't hear us talking about cuts. If we're true leaders, what does it look like for the council to have some type of cutbacks? Maybe we freeze our training for a couple years, or maybe we don't get paid for a year, right? Like, how do we participate in this, and what does that look like? And can staff come back to us and say, hey, no more, if there's any increases, but what if it's a 50% cutback in what we get as council members, mayor, and maybe it's half the travel budget or none of the travel budget for the foreseeable future until we have better days. Maybe someone else wants to talk to that and make a motion. I'd second it.
Okay, so we're going to go to Councilmember Aguilar next.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Thank you, everyone, for all the time and effort that you put into this. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know, we in our finance committee, we came back with some bold requests, and you came close to bringing, we had an operating deficit, and when we went in to ask to bring that operating deficit closer towards what our net revenue is, you came close to that, and pats on the back for doing that. I think there were some things that we talked about and the chart with regards to human services, the gap analysis study. When I was on the Human Services Commission, the gap analysis study was something that basically opened our eyes to let us know that we do have mental health. We do have a gap in addressing mental health concerns. That's one of the biggest issues in San Leandro. And then we had the issue with Stephen Taylor. And so, we talked about the pavilion and memorial. I think that's something that, I'd like to see move forward to update that gap analysis, because that gap analysis study we had was probably 10 years ago. So that, I would promote that with regards to immigration services. I can see folks can go and get that at the county. But I would like to see if the county would coordinate with us to provide that in the senior center to get them to pay for it, but provide it here in our city. And I would not like to see senior lunches as somebody who ran a nonprofit. The seniors look forward, and that's sometimes their only way of socializing with folks is to participate in that senior lunch. We talked about the rent registry. That's something that we're looking forward towards. And also with regards to the ARU and the encampment cleanup, I think that's something that we need to focus on. We had folks come in today to talk about what's going on at the Hesperian Villas and how they're being antagonized by these folks who are probably dealing with mental health issues and throwing rocks and setting fires to keep themselves warm. I think that's something that we really need to address, and a revenue measure. That's something that we need to all put our heads together to figure out, when is a good time. When can we go out to our voters? And we just gave raises and working together with our unions and our leaders to put forth and make sure that we're addressing our structural deficit. I think the ask in our finance committee meeting is, has been slightly addressed, but I think that adding to this by talking about a revenue measure, it's all about timing. And I think we need to figure out when is the right time to go out for a revenue measure. But thank you so much for all your hard work and your dedication. I really appreciate it. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Councilman Riveros Walton.
Thank you all for your work to getting us to tonight. We've spent many hours together in finance. I think I went alphabetically in the previous finance meeting, so appreciate you staying so late. I'll just share some high-level comments, and then I'll just list off my questions, and if there's time, we can do that. Maybe we can consolidate the questions. Maybe my colleagues might also have the same ones, but the lens with which I am looking at this budget is through people. One of community safety, making San Leandro a more affordable place to live and a place where families and everyone are able to live the lives that they want to lead. And also the other lens that I'm looking at this budget through is being a responsible steward of the public's dollar, and really combing through. My process was mostly analyzing the previous biennial budget and then looking at kind of where we are now. There's been a lot of changes since the last budget. We've had a budget. We've had a city reorganization where we've had new departments, consolidation, and some changes. So I just wanted to kind of frame that because a lot of my questions and a lot of my comments will be kind of framed around that. I think to kind of continue pulling on the string of the emergency fund, I think I just want to ensure that we have a policy, because what I can anticipate is that in the coming years, as we head into the middle of the current administration, we will be looking in situations where everything is going to be an emergency, and we need to have a policy in place that we can think about now about what constitutes an emergency, how can we use those dollars, and kind of set some parameters there, because I can anticipate being faced with trying to mitigate some of the impact and not having some guardrails around how to spend those funds. And I think the 20%, that already has a policy in place. But that 5 million, I want to be very careful and put some guardrails now. And if we need to change them, we can change them. But at least we have had a discussion about what are some priorities that we as a council want to consider and ensure that we can at least anticipate some of those emergencies and kind of just put some parameters. So I'll just leave that there. Maybe that's something for finance to discuss, but I do think we need to think about that now. Our heads are somewhat, we're very busy and there's a lot going on, but there's not something immediate in front of us where we can kind of think about it and step away. The other, again, I'm looking through this budget through the lens of people and how how residents and community members are kind of interacting with their city. I didn't see MySL reflected on any of these. I'm really, that's a really customer-facing initiative that sees a lot of departments, and I didn't see it in any of the performance measures. And that's something that kind of, raised a question about what are some of the performance measures that we're looking at to ensure that as the public interacts with us, that we are responsive in a way that, is, I don't know that it will be sufficient, but anyway, that's just one thing that is customer facing thing. We want people to use it, and I think it's a really good indicator of how people perceive how their local government is working for them. I'll just kind of go through the rest of my questions. One thing that I brought up during our finance committee was our legal costs. I do want to see the number of what we've been spending. I know we've had some very singular issues that have happened over the last year, maybe even the last 18 months, but I do want to see kind of where that is, how that's trending, just to kind of benchmark and see where we are. I'm particularly concerned about the library closing, the shift in the hours and how that would affect the cooling centers. So if we have a high temperature day, it happens to be on a day that the library has reduced hours, just kind of want to think about what that means. And then again, the gap analysis was another question that I had, just pulling on the thread that Councilmember Aguilar put through. The basic needs grant on page 80 of the presentation, if that is going to be part of CAP, is that my understanding is that that's a competitive application process. So is that money currently already allocated to the basic needs program, or would they need to apply? We don't have to answer it now. Maybe we can answer it through emails, but I just wanted to lay out some of the questions in my framing. Thank you for the additional 45 seconds.
And then just as a courtesy of the council members, we can answer those through distribution to the full council. Councilmember Simon, please.
Thank you for the presentations. To answer the first question in the green bubble here, I highly support an additional revenue measure campaign. We need money. I mean, I appreciate all the cuts that you're doing, and the community will be impacted. I know we're trying to minimize it, but reducing pavers and people to fix cracks in the roads, we're going to hear about it. I mean, it's just obvious. We're going to hear about it. We already know that we're $250 million in the hole with streets, and we're going backwards. But this is the direction because we're out of money. So back to the green bubble, I support the $500,000 for the city to focus on bringing in money and coordinating with our union, Local 21. They came here and they offered their services to help us campaign for this, to get the word out. So again, I will beat that drum. We need the money. We cannot cut our way out of providing for our city, because our city is already, it needs help. Just drive around. It needs help. I'd also like to mention, I understand our sewers, for example, we're not even rehabilitating our sewer lines. I hear we're like cleaning them more efficiently, but we want to fix our sewers. We want to replace them. We're not even doing that. We're not even addressing issues. I'm really concerned. This is a Band-Aid on the problem in the city, which has been going on for decades and decades and decades. And here we go again, more Band-Aids. So back to the green bubble. We've got to fund this in order to bring in some money. I do want to look at, and I heard this from the public too, just in some conversations about revenue strategies, bringing in positions that can make money, like grant coordinators. Maybe I missed it or I didn't see it, but how can we start bringing in more money, grant coordinators that can pay for themselves? I do want to highlight this as well, and just not to knock anyone or knock a department, but back to the Stephen Taylor Pavilion, I got to bring it up. It was like an $800,000 project, and we're getting a $350,000 construction out of it. That's $450,000 in administration. So I think we have to look at more efficiencies in our city from a project management standpoint, and being just more efficient with the dollars that we have, and not just cutting. Legal costs as well. I agree with my colleague. I want to look at our legal costs, what we're spending, the whole gamut from investigations to settlements to whatever, what we can do to reduce our legal fees and focus on bringing services to our community. And I'll just wrap up back to the green bullet. the green bubble. I really think we need to invest in bringing in money to our city. Thank you.
Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Thank you all for your presentation. I have a few questions. I'm not going to get into too many of them, but one of them's with the libraries. I want to ask Brian Simmons. There was no mention of Weeks Branch. What is going on with Weeks Branch in my district? With Weeks Branch Library, you know, the little small one over there?
Weeks Branch, and we don't have a Weeks Branch.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm getting the name wrong of it.
Weeks, I think, is in Hayward. Plus, I remember.
The little library that we have right.
Oh, the South Branch.
South Branch. Well, I believe it was called. Okay, South.
South Branch. Quite a few months ago, we had communicated to the council that we have closed the South Branch, and it has being transitioned over as another facility for, I believe, environmental services.
Okay, I missed that. Okay, thank you. That's all I'm looking. Okay, on the human resources, I wanted to ask about the domestic violence case management. How often is that program used?
The domestic violence case management program is a 24/7 mobile outreach program. And so the case management component of this program is once somebody calls in and they are requesting support, then it's the ongoing connecting them to services, connecting them to shelters, providing them with a housing and safety plan, and working with those community members. And I believe that they work with around 20 community members annually.
How is that going to affect us? I know we're going to have a temporary until fiscal year 2027, but once 2027 comes up, are we going to transition into something, or are we got to find more funds, or how are we going to fill that gap, basically?
So currently, we've allocated funds for the case management program for FY26 and FY27. Beyond that, depends on the budget needs. The funds that we had to eliminate are for youth and community education presentations, as well as for the dedicated phone line for individuals to call into through Building Futures. And so we've been able to identify the funds this year to support those components of the services. And then again, beyond FY27 really depends on what the city's financial situation may look like.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I just wanted to say also that I'm concerned about the roads, reducing workers working on our roads, paving our roads. Yeah, our roads are a big concern. I agree with my colleague on that. And yeah, so yeah, it's going to be tough budget on some things. But a lot of, like my other colleagues said about a lot of the positions that we're cutting, they weren't filled anyway. So that's not going to hurt us too much on that. But the senior meals at the library, at the senior center, it's late, sorry. But yeah, the meals for the seniors at the senior center, yeah, that's going to hurt. And I've been to them, and yeah, that's when they like to communicate and get together, and so yeah, that's going to hurt. But that's all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, so before going back around, I'd like to offer my thoughts, and then we'll see how we do on time. So very quickly, I do want to again thank you, because I know that this has been a very difficult exercise, and as much as painful as it has been, you guys have remained as cheerful as humanly possible, and that kind of teamwork and camaraderie, that spirit of we can get this done, we can figure this out, is really, really appreciated, because this is not the fun stuff. And when I compare us to some of our neighboring cities that are literally cutting scores, if not hundreds of full-time people, I think that we have done a pretty good job of managing our city so that we're in this situation that we don't have to go through that process, at least not yet. And so I'm really, really, really grateful for what you've managed to do. I do think that there's an excellent opportunity to look at some of the county funds that will be opening up and becoming more available as litigation gets resolved, one of those being Measure W, Measure C. and really stepping up to that table and saying, I want my fair share, particularly given the socioeconomic status of many of our residents, and just really saying that money should be for us. And holding the county team, the supervisors, the staff, to making sure that that money is used, particularly for homeless services, and not letting that get reallocated to other means. And I would suspect, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the council. If we needed a resolution, we could come and explore that. But that concept that we know that we need to meet the needs of our most vulnerable residents, and that we expect the county to be supporting us with all this money that has been held up in litigation. Coming forward with efficiency, I do believe that we will, within a couple of years, see meaningful efficiency improvements because of the system implementation work that we are doing now. It will yield fruits. When I see you guys talking about financial close and bank reconciliations, hoping that most bank reconciliations can be done within 30 days, in theory, that should be every single month, right? It's not, we're hoping to get there. And the new systems, I believe, will help get us to the efficiency in how we interact on payments. You don't have to deal with paper and hire someone to check off boxes on a piece of paper. It's so much more will be electronic. And so I'm hoping that as those systems go into place fully, HR here at the end of this year and finance next summer, that we're tracking the benefits that we're getting from these systems. We're investing a lot of time. It's literally costing us millions of dollars. But on the backside, for decades, it should be savings of efficiency. I do very much want to tag on to what council members have said around performance measures. I know that we started this adventure maybe about two years ago now, and we've seen growing interest in performance measures. We received an excellent letter from one of our community members laying out a variety of ways that we can think about this. To the extent that the letter from Mr. Wu didn't make it to all department chairs, it would be my encouragement personally that go to department chairs, because I think it's a very good framework for the things that we've been thinking about, but it's so nicely organized in a 10-point document. So I would encourage you very much to be thinking in that framework, because it summarizes a lot of what you've gotten from council members, certainly in this meeting and before. I do think I just want to make sure that the record is clear about one thing, and that's that the proposed budget does decrease travel budgets for council members, and it decreases technology budgets for council members. If we want to keep going further, I have thought about the executive training that we had set aside for something, we've called it the Harvard training. But if we wanted to put that on hold for a year or two while we work through this, I very much agree with Councilmember Bolt that we ourselves need to be part of the solution. I do think that we are currently part of the solution, but I personally would be open to, if we wanted to expand some of what we take on. With respect to additional funding to support a revenue measure, I am sensitive to how much we spend without figuring out where we're going to cut. I think the council has been incredibly good tonight at providing that strategic direction, strategic input, but not saying, oh, I want $1 million here and I want $2 million here, because that would have gotten into, okay, so what are we going to cut? So here we are given an ask, but it's not clear what we would cut to achieve that ask. So just food for thought on that. So we're sitting here with 4.5 minutes left, and I'm wondering, would you guys like to extend? Would you like to go a second round? What's happening here? Because I got 2 people in queue. So I'm going to start with Councilmember Bolt and say, what would you like to do?
Mine was going to be real quick. I know that there are some cuts as far as our training, but I'm looking to go deeper. And I would like to expand that into what we get compensated as well. If we're going to be up here asking every department in the city to cut, we should be also looking in the mirror saying, you know what, it's real for us too. So mine's simple, and I'm just hoping I could get some support on that, and then we can look into what it means to to the budget and how the budget changes by us taking a haircut and not just everybody else in this city. And then while libraries are shutting down and parks are getting less services, nothing changes for the compensation the council members get. So I'm hoping to get some support in that.
Okay. Vice Mayor Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that I wanted to give a little bit of feedback on too, I would just want to be wary a lot of, obviously we're the positions that were vacant, we're not filling, but at one point there was a need for those positions because of the load that we've had. I remember many conversations where we've talked about the ask is that you have more staffing. And so and in fact, I think one of the, I kept hearing over and over was that increased salary costs is a significant part of the deficit that we're heading towards. And I just want to be thinking about retention. I mean, obviously making more money is helpful, but again, if it's going to be a leaner organization with just as much work, if not more work, and if you're ever part of an organization that's like shrinking, it's not great for morale. And so just what that looks like. I saw in there was a reduction in library hotspots, and I don't know how much money that was, but I was thinking, you know, obviously it's so critical for the population to have access to internet, to be able to do all the things that they need to do. I'm going to repeat what everybody else said around like library services, recs and parks and human services. Obviously, those are so critical and near and dear to just the everyday engagement with the community. The reduced pavement repair, that one is really hard to try to accept. I think that is something, I got 3 emails about that just today, right? Like it's like front of mind for so many people. And then for the ARPA projects, I would really like it if we funded the Small Business Tech Assistance Program. It's $85,000 and it serves 95 businesses. And if we want our community to thrive, we need economic development and we need small businesses, especially small, diverse businesses, to be able to thrive. And if there's a way to be able to support that program, that would be great.
Okay, so at this point in time, I want to do a time check because let me tell you where we are. Big picture. We've got a budget that's been presented to us. That's for $230 million, give or take some millions. I've heard a little bit of rounding around the edges, but I haven't heard a consensus for this budget needs to be changed by some amount. And with that energy of we're going to move to a second, then we're going to vote, and this is what we're going to cut, and this is what we're going to increase. What I'm kind of getting is like we need to stay focused, but I'm not getting that this budget is flawed. So that's what I'm trying to sense. Are we going to extend time, and are we going to work on changing this budget, or are we going to work towards an adoption of this budget at our next meeting? Because if we start making changes, then there's a lot that goes into that. So the sense that I'm getting is that we're going to be okay with what's been presented, but I really want to have that quick discussion because if we need to extend the time, we need to extend the time. So if I can get like some kind of, like at least give me a thumbs up, like you're going to be fine with this budget, or if we need to have a discussion, give me some indication here. Because I'm trying to figure out how we manage time. I'm going to go to Councilmember Simon. I think you were in there already.
I mean, a big part of this is the green bubble. I mean, are we going for that? That's part of the budget process. I mean, I haven't really heard any other input on that, supporting a revenue measure.
Okay. Councilmember Aguilar. Can you punch in, please?
We have a work session on next week, Monday.
It is a special session that is already pretty long with, I think it's 3 different action items. It's going to be a long meeting already. So I'm going to let city manager weigh in, and then we've got our time issue. So I'm going to do a time check just as a matter of process. You want to give this 15 more minutes, or who wants to extend our time?
I make a motion 15 more minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, thank you for keeping us. Thank you.
All votes are in, motion passes,
Thank you for
unanimous,
keeping
7-0.
us legal. I'm going to come back to city manager to try to explain some of the constraints that we face.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The issue with the next meeting is the timing to get ready for the 16th. So the 16th is the adoption day, and the finance director and her team are going to need Lisa, depending on the changes, they're going to need a lot of time to get ready for that. And if we meet on the 9th with that packet coming out 2 days later, they don't have any time to prepare the packet. So that's why we need to know what the council would like us to do. We're fine with you saying this is great, go forward. That works for us too.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to go back to Councilmember Simon. You're still in queue, right?
Yeah, as far as extending beyond June 17th, what happens if we go into July?
Is there a legal constraint? Question mark. I'm going to start with city attorney.
Yes, there's a constraint. According to your city charter, one moment here. The budget adoption no later than June 30th, after the conclusion of the public hearing, which will be on the 16th, no later than June 30th, the council by resolution shall adopt the budget. You'll be out of compliance with your charter.
I think there's probably also state law on the same topic, would be my guess. Okay, who's next? Councilmember Votis Walton.
I think, if we set aside money for a revenue measure campaign, I think we need to think about where that would come from, or just to underscore your point. I think there was a comment from the public on, and on the city clerk's presentation on the cost of the special election on the redistricting. And I'm just wondering if kind of combining the public comment and this, it's a significant cost to put that election on. Just would like to get, maybe it's a question for the next meeting on whether we need to actually put on the special election to put that before the voters. That's a significant cost savings that could offset just setting aside the money for a revenue measure campaign. It is my understanding that there might be a community-led campaign that we might not need this, but I would like to kind of keep the 500,000 kind of socked away, but asking the question, we've budgeted for a special election for the redistricting, not for the redistricting, for the at-large versus district elections. I'm just wondering if that is a savings that we can offset this.
The city manager, is that something that we could work through during the course of the year between now and whenever that election is?
The question, just because I'm trying to understand which part is, are you saying do not include the 500,000 now and then hope we can save the money on the special election later? Is that what I'm?
That's something that's going to be explored, or at least that's why I interpreted your statement.
Well, it is my understanding that we need to do that concurrently, right? Where we have to make a decision whether we're going to have the election now because it's budgeted. And if we make the decision to not, then I think that is how we can help fund the 500,000 for the campaign measures, so that we're not cutting into any of the departments, but rather taking into account some of the feedback that we got through public comment.
So to answer that, you're 100% correct. Is that the revenue measure work, we want to start at the top of the fiscal year and get to it. A lot of this is outreach. We learned a lot of lessons from the last time we tried to do this. And the good thing, we won't make mistakes again. Hopefully we'll have a better chance of doing a revenue measure. So we're kind of at a point that if it's not funded, we're not going to start the work come the top of the year.
Councilmember Bolt.
I want to follow up on that question that Councilmember Veras Walton was asking about not having the election. It was my understanding that we have to because we don't have the authority to change it. The public has the authority, so we would have to have an election. We couldn't just say, even though we all agree we should go that way, it's not in our purview. Am I correct?
If I go to city attorney, I think it's in the context of a charter amendment.
That is our advice, Councilmember Bolt, yes, that a charter amendment vote is required because the way that the elections are defined in our charter is by, the way that the elections are to occur by district is in the charter.
And the only way to change the charter is going to the public and putting it to a vote.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Simon.
As far as the 500,000 needed for the revenue measure, I understand that the 20% reserves is higher than required.
For fiscal year 2026, if we adopt the budget as presented this evening, we will be at the 20%.
Right, but that 20% threshold, that is not a state regulatory requirement. That's just something we're going with.
That is a council policy.
Right, so we could change that and take the 500 out of that temporarily until we get this revenue measure passed.
The council could choose to draw down from the fund balance and take 500,000, and it would reduce the target fund balance. All that is stating is that it would not be meeting the council policy. But as you saw in out years, there are projections where we are not meeting that 20%. So it is a direction that council can choose to do.
Okay, that's my recommendation. And as far as additional,
We want to clarify that answer from city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Simon. Thank you for the answer, Director Gonzalez. There's a piece we need to be clear on. So yes, everything she said is correct. The council has full authority to draw down, deplete whatever they want to do with the reserves. But when you're doing a revenue measure, if you're not at the 20%, there is an impact on the revenue and bonds. So Director Gonzalez, if you could talk about why we wouldn't want to do that while we're also trying to do a revenue measure.
So when you are going through a process of borrowing or bonding so that you can get funding for infrastructure, you have to go through a very rigorous process with credit agencies such as Moody's or Fitch or S&P. And they often are looking at the city's long-term financial stability. They're looking at whether or not you have adequate reserve balances. They're also looking to see if you're making meaningful contributions to your obligations. So contributing to your pension obligations, as well as your retiree medical obligations. So there's a number of things. And so when a city drops below its own policy, it could potentially impact, one, the credit rating, but also the potential cost of borrowing the money. So if you're not meeting your own policies or you're not meeting meaningful obligations to your, or payments to your obligations, it could also impact your.
I understand. Okay. And from a timing perspective, sounds like June 30th, we have to June 30th. So we could have a special meeting on June 30th if we needed more time to figure this out for an additional meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we should rush it. This is some serious topics, some serious things that we're cutting out. If we need more time, and it's getting really late, we're getting tired. I think we should,
But
time needed.
I do want to be clear about something. There's a question about the 500 for a revenue measure or some amount for revenue measure. But are we talking about changing all the numbers that have been presented here? Because I really want to get the sense of where the council is on that topic. If we're talking about one specific thing, I want to make sure that we come back to discuss that item. But if we're talking about going back department by department and tweaking numbers, I want to make sure that that's the interest of the whole council.
I don't think going department department. I think the 500K is important for the revenue measure. I think impacting our streets is not a good thing. I don't think we should stop fixing cracks in the streets. It's going to get even worse. There might be one or two other things. Overall, I'm okay. But I really want to focus on getting the money in. That's really, really important, that 500K.
I'm trying to get some kind of consensus out there because I had gotten the sense that we were kind of like, okay, we're fine with this, but this 500 thing has kind of gotten a little bit of life. So I'm going to go to Councilmember Bolt.
If you're looking for a motion on this,
There's no motion because it's a discussion item today. But what I'm really trying to do is give direction to the staff on, are we set with this budget? And to the extent that we're not, where do we want to dig in? And I've heard discussion around 500, the revenue measure piece, the green box. I've heard some discussion about roads, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like not end up here on June 30th having a 6-hour meeting because we're going line item by line item. That's my personal preference, and I kind of gotten that sense from the council broadly. And so that's my question really is, where are we? Give me a temperature check of where we are, what it is that we want to focus our time on.
personally, I mean, the director stood up here. They cut as much as they could. I'm okay with where they're at. I mean, we're going to have to visit this again. It's no doubt next year. I mean, we're going to have to continually, it's not, we're done tonight. We're going to have to continually come back. So I'm okay with where we're at. If they're comfortable, I'm comfortable.
Just really quickly, if I can just get a broader sense. I'm getting head nods, big picture, and I totally get that there's still this open question about the 500K or the revenue measure piece. So, Councilmember Votos Walton.
I just wanted to, to kind of share with my colleagues that we actually did go back to staff, and one of the big things that were not included in anyway, I'm okay with it because it includes the administration for the rent registry program and that FTE. It maintains basic level of services for human services and libraries. It balances a little bit. In terms of recreation, it maintains levels. Again, to your point, so I'm okay with it. I can live with it for a year. But I think we need to have.
Councilmember Aguilar.
I'm okay with it too. I wouldn't have recommended it to come to council in the finance committee if I wasn't.
Okay. So I just, big picture, I think you've got enough council members to say, we're fine with the number. I think there's a pending question on the 500. Given the time, I don't know that we're going to resolve exactly what we do about that revenue number. My question to you, city manager, is can you live with that as of right now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we can live with that right now. I think I have enough direction to understand the council is still interested in looking at ways to spend money for the revenue measure. We also have the end of fiscal year 25 to deal with, and the end of year money for that, we may be able to come back depending on what it is, because we do have lots of vacancies that are currently budgeted that were not filled. We may be able to fund it that way as well.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I just want to put it on the record, but I do, just the one small project for the Small Business Technical Assistance Program, if there's a way for us to be able to support that when you're talking about potentially finding funding, that's a different.
So at this point in time, I'm going to close this item. I know we're just about to run out of time. Is there anything under item 11? Did I do 10? Nothing under 11? Perfect. Anything under 12 that you feel like you have to report today? Councilmember Aguilar?
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Okay, so with that, it is 11:30 and we are adjourned.